Insightful podcasts by informative hosts. Insights into Things, a podcast network. Welcome to Insights into Teens, a podcast series exploring the issues and challenges of today's youth. Your hosts are Joseph and Madison Whalen, a father and daughter team making their way through the challenges of the teenage years.
Welcome to Insights into I Have to Clear My Throat Teens, episode 183, Teens and Anger Management. I'm your host, Joseph Frog at his Throat Whalen, and my expressive and informed co-host, Madison Whalen.
Hello, everyone.
How are you doing today, Maddie?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. If I was doing any better, they'd have to arrest me.
Why, though?
That's just a joke, I guess.
Fair enough.
Anyway, so anything exciting happened this week?
I got my hair cut.
You did? Just one of them?
No.
No, you got them all cut?
I got my hairs cut then.
There you got my hairs cut. Y'all.
Really?
Yeah, why not? Dad jokes, sweetie. That's really all I got.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anything else exciting happen?
It's almost Thanksgiving, I guess, so that's pretty cool.
I guess that's exciting. I was kind of referring to your report card.
Oh, yeah, my report card.
That's going to cost me a boatload of money because you got so many A's in it this time, but congratulations to you on that.
Thanks.
So today we are talking teens and anger management. In a 2022 survey of 1,000 parents of teens, 2/3 identified anger as a concerning indicator that would prompt them to seek treatment for their teenager. Adolescents frequently experience anger due to the significant changes they undergo physically, mentally, and socially, compounded by the substantial decisions they face. Although teen anger is a common emotion, its origins can vary. It might stem from appropriate emotional expression or even be linked to a mental disorder. Explosive and violent outbursts, as well as common anger episodes, can sometimes be indicative of an anger problem, necessitating anger management treatment. In today's episode of Insights into Teens, we'll talk about how parents can help kids with anger management. But before we do that, I want to take a moment to invite our listening audience to subscribe to the podcast. You can find audio versions of this podcast listed as Insights into Teens, or you can find audio and video versions of all the network's podcasts listed as Insights into Things. Pretty much any place you can find a podcast these days. I would also encourage you to write in and give us your feedback. Tell us how we're doing. You can email us at comments@insightsintothings.com. You can find us on Twitter or X at insights_things, or you can find links to all that and more on our official website at www.insightsintothings.com. Shall we get into it?
We shall.
Let's commence shelling. So once again, we're tapping into that wonderful well of knowledge at newportacademy.com for this week's notes. So they ask, what is healthy anger in teens? The concept of healthy anger in teens is a seemingly paradoxical idea. Anger, a completely normal emotion, can actually be beneficial if expressed and managed constructively. This is particularly relevant for teenagers who often face challenges and situations that evoke strong emotional responses. Let's consider a common scenario. A teen faces an unfair situation, like an undeserved punishment from a teacher. The situation naturally triggers anger. Such emotional responses are not only valid but also natural. However, the way teens express this anger is crucial. It's important that their expression, whether through raised voices or tears, doesn't lead to harm. Communication plays a vital role here. Open conversations about the situation, where the teen's perspective is acknowledged, can validate their feelings and promote understanding. A study by the American Psychological Association found that teens who feel heard and understood by their parents are more likely to manage their emotions effectively.
Parents are instrumental in guiding teens through these emotional landscapes. They can provide tools for processing anger constructively. For instance, physical activities like running or creative outlets can be excellent ways for teens to release the energy associated with anger. A 2021 research article in the Journal of Adolescent Health emphasized the benefits of physical exercise in regulating emotions in teenagers. Encouraging healthy coping mechanisms is essential. Apologies.
Just read it the way it's written.
I'm trying. This not only aids in managing anger, but also equips teens with life skills for handling emotions. A survey conducted by the National Institute of Mental Health revealed that teens who practice healthy coping strategies are better at navigating emotional challenges. Understanding and managing anger in a healthy way is a vital skill for teens. It's a collaborative effort where open communication, acknowledging feelings, and constructive outlets play key roles. This approach not only helps in the current situation, but also prepares teens for emotional challenges in the future.
When should you worry about an angry teenager? Well, anger is a normal emotion. How it's expressed and its intensity can sometimes signal deeper issues. Unhealthy anger in teens often appears when their anger is out of proportion to the situation or when it leads to uncontrollable or violent outbursts. If a teen frequently gets angry over minor things, this is a red flag. Physiologically, the body isn't meant to sustain high levels of anger frequently. Research has linked such persistent, intense anger to mental health issues like teenage depression. Sometimes, a teenager's anger is actually a sign of deeper emotional struggles. They might be dealing with feelings they're not comfortable sharing, leading to irritability and frequent outbursts. Engaging in open conversations can help uncover these underlying issues. A study published in the Journal of Adolescent Health highlights the importance of understanding the emotional context behind a teenager's anger.
Hormonal changes during adolescence also play a role in fluctuations, including anger. While these hormone-induced mood changes are often temporary, it's still crucial to monitor their impact on the teen's well-being. Distinguishing between normal mood variations and unhealthy patterns of anger is key. Identifying signs of unhealthy anger involves looking at the frequency, intensity, and appropriateness of a teen's emotional responses. Managing this requires open communication, offering tools for anger management, and recognizing potential underlying emotional challenges. By addressing unhealthy anger, we can support our teens' emotional health and overall well-being.
So, I think the bottom line is everybody gets angry. Why you're getting angry and how you deal with that anger is really the important thing. So in your own life, have you experienced situations where you felt your anger was justified, yet had difficulty expressing it constructively?
Yeah, I've certainly had situations where I think my anger was justified. And at this point, I do kind of have instances like that now. It was way worse when I was in 6th grade. I always seem to bring that up sometimes when 6th grade was kind of the year where everything kind of hit me like a truck or something. But I am realizing now that there are things that I kind of get mad about, and I think justifiably, like people being annoying in class. I understand that it's not that big of a deal, but Specifically, there's this one period where they consistently are annoying and deliberately make themselves annoying, probably just for the attention, because my entire class is pretty much just full of class clowns. And, like, I don't do anything about it. I kind of just, like, say stuff under my breath. I could probably be doing something a little better by just not really paying attention to it, or actually trying to be like, hey, I want to actually put a stop to this in a more constructive manner. I don't entirely do that right now. I kind of just, like, say stuff under my breath and try not to listen to them.
So kind of a passive-aggressive way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
Well, considering the role communication plays in managing emotions, how do you feel adults, like parents or teachers, could improve their approach in understanding and addressing the anger teenagers often experience?
Well, I guess this is sort of just a general thing when it comes to most adults and their views on teenage emotional expression. I wouldn't just chalk it up to like, oh, the teenager, they're just being a teenager. It's, whatever, you can't. Teenagers are rebellious, or like mainly just following stereotypes of teenagers.
The infamous teen angst angle.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like, the whole it's not a phase, mom, or whatever. And I feel like if adults like listen to that less, like there would actually be good communication between them and their teen, because more than likely that if like your teen's not telling you anything and you are just following those stereotypes, they're probably not telling you anything because they don't think you'd respect them enough to actually communicate with them in a productive manner.
That's a very good point. Respect is something that's key to communication, especially when you're talking about things of this nature where it's a highly emotionally charged thing and the parents aren't giving the kids the respect they need to sit down and talk to them. They obviously recognize there's a problem and they just want to explain it away as teen angst, or you're going through a phase, or it's not a big deal, or you'll get over it. It's a mistake that I've made in the past, and one that, I'm learning slowly, but I'm learning to certainly take it a little bit. I don't want to say too seriously, but certainly understanding your perspective when it comes to situations like that.
Yeah.
So what are some methods that you've found effective in managing strong emotions, and how do you think these strategies impact your overall well-being?
Well, a lot of it I do feel is kind of talking about it. Like, this podcast was actually, originally created as a way to help me get through some of the more complicated emotions. And whenever I can, with either you or mommy, I would normally talk about stuff that would make me angry. And sure, looking back at a lot of it, it could kind of seem more meaningless, but the idea of at least talking about it and getting my frustrations out in a way that, like, I'm not directly shouting at anybody, but I'm just explaining my frustration about a specific thing, I feel like has been very helpful. Another thing I found is the idea of kind of taking your mind off things by watching videos, playing video games, or doing something in a more like relaxed manner that kind of can take you off the edge.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think all of us need some kind of release like that, or if not a release, at least a distraction to kind of de-stress and come back energized to deal with these things.
Yeah, and that sort of thing also helps me from ever lashing out at anybody because, a lot of the times I like to consider it sort of like a steaming kettle or something, where it's like, if I don't let out like some steam, sometimes it's like I'm gonna burst.
Right.
And when I burst, I'm not going to be able to control myself. So, and if I keep it all inside, that's really not going to help, and it's just going to get worse and worse until I explode in an uncontrolled manner.
Right. So you let it out in controlled bursts. This way you can control it, you can manipulate it, and you can even use it for constructive purposes in situations like that too.
Yeah.
So as of right now, do you think that you're a very angry person at this point?
Not really. I certainly used to be, to the point where I had almost no emotional control and would lash out at my friends, and even one time I lashed out at a teacher. And I really did not have a huge emotional control. I also thought very negatively and very rarely ever thought positively. Right now, I feel I'm not really an angry type of person. I can certainly be miserable at times, but, I'm not particularly angry. I can certainly get angry because, there are certain things that can just annoy me, but I don't really lash out anymore like I used to, and I don't always get angry at, the littlest things anymore, so I certainly would say that I've gotten better with my anger.
Okay. Well, and that's good. I can, freely admit that when I was your age, a little bit younger, I had serious anger management issues, and it stemmed from a lot of different sources. There was some significant stress points at home because of my father. There was school stress that everyone winds up going through. It's different for everybody, but everybody winds up going through it. I struggled in a couple of classes. There were certain pressures socially that I was under that caused it. So for me, my anger issues were multifaceted, and it took a while for me to finally get a grip on them and figure out how to deal with these things and deal with them one problem at a time as much as you can. So I think we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, you're going to tell us what causes teen anger, at least some of the causes of it. We'll be right back. For over 7 years, the Second Sith Empire has been the premier community guild in the online game Star Wars: The Old Republic. With hundreds of friendly and helpful active members, a weekly schedule of nightly events, annual guild meet and greets, and an active community both on the web and on Discord. The Second Sith Empire is more than your typical gaming group. We're family. Join us on the Starforge server for nightly events such as operations, flashpoints, world boss hunts, Star Wars trivia, guild lottery, and much more. Visit us on the web today at www.thesecondsithempire.com.
Welcome back to Insights into Teens. Today we're talking about teens and anger management. And now we're going to talk about what causes teen anger. Understanding the factors behind teen anger is essential to address the question of why adolescents may be experiencing heightened anger. It's important to differentiate between normal, healthy, and potentially problematic, unhealthy anger. The causes of teen anger can be diverse and complex, and investigating these underlying reasons is crucial for effective intervention.
There are various factors that can contribute to teen anger, each requiring careful consideration. While occasional bouts of anger are normal during this developmental stage, persistent and pervasive anger may signify more significant issues that warrant attention. Some potential causes of chronic teen anger include underlying mental health conditions. Anger can be a symptom of an underlying mental health condition such as depression, anxiety, or oppositional defiant disorder, which we talked about in a previous podcast. In some cases, anger may serve as a defense mechanism for deeper emotional struggles. Substance abuse is another cause. Substance abuse can exacerbate and distort emotional responses, leading to heightened anger and irritability. Identifying and addressing substance abuse issues is crucial for managing anger.
Unprocessed trauma is another one. Past traumas can fuel unresolved anger, as the emotions associated with the trauma remain unprocessed. Therapy is often necessary to help teens work through and heal from traumatic experiences. Learned behaviors is also a factor. teens may learn unhealthy ways of expressing anger from family dynamics or their environment. Family dysfunction, modeling of aggressive behavior, or a history of conflict at home can contribute to maladaptive anger expression. The final factor they list here is unprocessed emotions. Teens might struggle with processing a wide range of emotions, and anger can sometimes become a default emotional response. This can stem from an inability to understand or communicate their feelings effectively.
Addressing some of these underlying issues requires professional help and intervention. A mental health or substance abuse diagnosis necessitates specialized medical and therapeutic treatment. Teens who have learned negative behavior patterns might benefit from anger management classes or therapeutic interventions that address underlying family dynamics. Furthermore, individuals who rely on anger as a way to express their emotions can benefit from therapy aimed at enhancing emotional regulation skills and fostering healthier coping mechanisms.
Recognizing the sources of teen anger and distinguishing between normal and emotional expression and potentially harmful patterns is essential for providing appropriate support. Identifying and addressing underlying factors through professional help can pave the way for healthier emotional development and effective anger management strategies.
So, do you find that you run into anger issues, whether they're minor, severe, healthy, unhealthy? Do you get angry? Are you the type of person who just doesn't get angry?
I can certainly get angry. I'm not gonna, say that, oh, I never get angry. I know that, like, one of my friends might have mentioned something where it's like, I never see you getting angry, I just see you getting disappointed. No, I can get angry. It can either be because the cats are being bad, people are just being really loud in school when I'm trying to focus on an assignment, there's just technical issues I'm facing, or I'm, like, working on, like, writing or drawing something, and, like, I keep making the same mistake over and over again, or I don't think it looks perfect, and even though, like, I'm, drawing and trying to continually fix it, I always seem to ruin it.
So it's almost like you get angry at yourself more than you get angry at other people, it sounds.
Yeah, kinda.
Are there any particular strategies or support systems that you find helpful in managing intense emotions like this?
Well, usually stepping away from those sort of things and, like, trying to focus on something else or doing something else that's a little more calming can usually help. I might just watch a YouTube video or just go pet a cat, or if I can't do that, just try to focus on something else and try to just step away from it and kind of, like, take time to, like, calm myself down pretty much.
That's a good idea. I mean, divorcing yourself from whatever is making you angry is always a good way of helping to cope with that. In your opinion, how much do you think your environment and the behaviors you observe around you influence your own expression of anger? And caveat here, I'm probably the number one expression of anger in this house here. However, I will say that my anger, when I get angry, is almost always directed at inanimate objects. I go through painstaking meditative processes to limit it to objects, mostly technology around the house, rather than individuals around the house.
I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before, but I feel like your anger towards inanimate objects is what kind of led me on the path of, like, if there's some sort of technological problem or there's some, like, object that normally always works but for some reason isn't working right now, I will get angry at it.
Well, and it's worth mentioning that most of the angst that I have that generates anger is from technology. And I work in technology. That's my chosen profession. And the technology around the house that usually causes the most anger are things that have to do with the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, knock on wood, we're doing pretty good today without any technical glitches, until I say that, of course. But we could turn everything off, finish the recording, walk away, come back tomorrow, turn it back on, and nothing will work. and for no good reason. And being of an analytical mind and a troubleshooting person that I am, that drives me insane. And that's what causes most of my anger. Does that influence you though? Does seeing me, for lack of a better term, act like an idiot like that, does that influence you and make you angry? Or do you feed off of that?
I don't think I ever really feed off your anger. It's kind of more of a mimicking thing that happens without like anything relating. Like it's probably like you'll be angry at something and then I'll be angry at something else, but it'll be a very similar thing. Whenever you do it, it's more I'm afraid than I am angry.
Well, and why would you be afraid? It's not like I've ever hurt anyone in that anger.
Yeah, but I don't really like people shouting. And there was one specific time recently where we were planning on doing a podcast we had been planning on doing for a while. And I just said planning twice. My apologies.
Sorry, we'll give you an extra commission on that.
Thanks. And Mommy's headphones weren't working because we were doing episode 180.
Yeah, okay.
And when you told me to find the plug for it, I accidentally hit the switch on the adapter and everything turned off. And you had already like troubleshooted multiple times trying to get this to work. And then you pretty much just lost it. And I was just terrified.
Well, and you know what? It's funny because in that instance, I took your tact. I had to walk away.
Yep.
I was so frustrated by that point in time that it could have been anything that would have set me off. That one more problem that I ran into that day and we weren't doing a podcast. It just so happened to be that you turned the power off, which maybe that was for the best, because maybe if we had sat and tried to go through it and something else came up, it would have made it worse. So. But that was my coping mechanism. I had to walk away because my blood pressure was up. I was agitated and I was too annoyed to continue down things. So maybe you saved me more problems than I think than it caused.
Maybe.
But, we all get angry. And, when it happens to me here and I yell and I scream and I curse and I make a big deal, I'll walk away. And usually my rule of thumb is, you get 3 shots. I'll walk away. That's 1 shot. I'll come back. I'll try it again. If I get frustrated, I'll walk away and I'll come back one more time after I've calmed down. And after that, if I can't get things to work the way they're supposed to work, then I'm done. I quit. I walk away. And I come back another day. And we came back a couple of days later and we did a podcast and everything was fine.
Yeah.
The headphones still didn't work, by the way. I still have to figure out what the problem is.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, we all get angry. Turn it into something good.
Yep.
We're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about specifically why anger is anger in boys more common? I could have said that probably 12 other ways too, but
yeah.
Or at least is that a perception? Is it a perception that it's just in boys? Because growing up, it always was, it's what everyone thought for me. But we'll talk about that when we get back in 60 ticks.
Insights into Entertainment, a podcast series taking a deeper look into entertainment and media. Our husband and wife team of pop culture fanatics are exploring all things from music and movies to television and fandom. We'll look at the interesting and obscure entertainment news of the week. We'll talk about theme park and pop culture news. We'll give you the latest and greatest on pop culture conventions. We'll give you a deep dive into Disney, Star Wars, and much more. Check out our video episodes at youtube.com/insightsintothings. Our audio episodes at podcast.insightsintoentertainment.com, or check us out on the web at insightsintothings.com.
welcome back to Insights into Teens. Today we're talking about teens and anger management. And now we're going to talk about why is anger in boys more common, or, if it's just a myth or something or whatever.
Something like that.
Something like you said before.
A man, a myth, a legend.
Yeah. The prevalence of anger in adolescent boys raises questions about its underlying causes and implications for mental health. Understanding why anger appears more common in boys can shed light on the unique challenges they face and the importance of early intervention. Mental health conditions. Boys are more prone to express underlying mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety, and bipolar disorder through anger and irritability. This can make it harder to recognize their emotional struggles, and these symptoms might be misconstrued as simply bad behavior.
Research from the Journal of Family Medicine and Primary Care suggests that boys often externalize their emotional distress through anger, aggression, and even violence, rather than displaying the more stereotypical signs of sadness or hopelessness associated with depression. The difference in emotional expression can make it challenging to identify when boys are struggling with their mental health. Societal norms and expectations can play a role in shaping how boys express emotions. Boys may feel societal pressure to exhibit toughness and suppress vulnerability, which can lead to masking their emotional pain with anger. Boys might encounter barriers in seeking help for their emotional struggles. Societal stigma around mental health issues and a cultural bias against seeking help can discourage boys from reaching out for help.
Recognizing that disruptive or aggressive behaviors in boys might stem from deeper emotional challenges is paramount. Parents and caregivers should be vigilant about these signs, understanding that outward anger could be an indicator of a significant underlying mental health disorder. Providing a safe and open space for boys to discuss their emotions, seeking professional help when needed, and addressing societal norms that discourage emotional expression can contribute to healthier emotional development. Early intervention and support can help boys navigate the complexities of their emotions and mental well-being, ultimately leading to healthier outcomes.
So is it a perception that boys have more anger issues, or do you experience that boys tend to have more anger issues?
I do feel like there's certainly this idea that men kind of experience more anger than women, and I do feel it's more or less the idea that they can't really express any other emotion, because I've seen like a lot of people online kind of talking about how like men aren't really supposed to be vulnerable, and there's like the societal stigma of like they have to be tough and emotions are weak or whatever.
So you think you would agree with the statement that it's societal and cultural factors that play a role in how males typically handle their emotions.
And also the idea that, like, they're not really able to talk about mental issues that they experience, and obviously the stigma around mental health for them.
No, I agree, and I think that's certainly been the case, but I can say since I was your age, things have gotten significantly better. There's a lot of those barriers are coming down, fortunately. And there's a lot more support outlets out there for men. And a lot of times it's not the traditional, mental health type things that you would look at. A lot of times it's through clubs and it's through very masculine sort of activities, so that men can ease into that sort of thing, which is, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah.
But what barriers do you think exist for boys in seeking help, and how do you think these could be overcome?
Well, the barriers that they might experience could possibly be peer pressure that they have from their classmates, their parents, their teachers, or just really anybody in their life basically saying like, oh, your problems don't really matter all that much, or, oh, you're not supposed to be feeling that sort of thing. And I do know that there are people out there that kind of say things that are basically like, oh, men, you can't be this way because you have to be strong and you're supposed to be doing that. And if you're not, then you're not really a man. And I feel like that stuff can really get to younger boys. And when it comes to, actually shaping them as an individual, I feel like that really can negatively affect them. And if they're going to be able to overcome those barriers, we kind of have to change the social stigma around their mental health and basically say it's okay to feel any sort of emotion. You're allowed to do that. Like, it doesn't make you weak. You might even be seen as being stronger if you're able to be more vulnerable to people that you trust.
I agree. And we've thrown the term toxic masculinity around in the past, and you hear it in society a lot, and it usually refers to something very different. But I think this is another form of toxic masculinity where the expectations that are placed on males to act tough and to not be vulnerable and to, not succumb to your emotions, I think that's another form of toxic masculinity because it forces you into unhealthy situations.
I mean, yeah, and I've seen a lot of different older men kind of saying that men can't, that the only thing that they can feel is anger and that there's nothing else. They're not allowed to feel sad. They're not allowed, and they'll shame other men if they ever feel sad or even cry.
Yeah, and you know what? The sad thing is that there's enough anger in the world that we don't need to foster any more of it.
Yeah.
So a lot of parents want to know, how can I help my teenager manage their anger? Well, assisting adolescents in managing their anger requires a balanced approach that combines effective communication, emotional regulation techniques, and clear boundaries. Here's how parents can help their angry teens navigate their emotions and develop healthy anger management strategies. The first is obvious: offer help. Let your teen know that you're there to support them in their journey to manage anger. Provide reassurance that it's okay to feel angry, but that it's important to express and manage those emotions in a healthy manner.
You should also prioritize battles. Recognize that not every issue needs to be confronted. Letting go of minor complaints can prevent unnecessary conflicts and provide a calmer atmosphere for addressing more significant concerns. There's also positive framing. When addressing issues, start with praise or positive aspects of their behavior before addressing criticisms. This approach can reduce the feeling of being judged and create a more receptive atmosphere for conversation. You should also model self-control. Parents should demonstrate emotional regulation themselves. Taking a time out when feeling angry and addressing issues calmly can serve as a valuable example for teens to follow. You should also respect personal space. If a teen wants to step away to calm down, allow them the time and space to do so. Pushing for immediate interaction might escalate the situation further.
You should also encourage open dialogue. Create an environment where teens feel comfortable discussing their emotions openly. Encourage them to express what triggers their anger and explore ways to address those triggers constructively. Teach problem solving. Guide teens through problem-solving techniques. Help them identify alternatives to angry outbursts, empowering them to find more constructive ways of addressing challenges. Also, set clear boundaries. Establish boundaries for behavior, ensuring that both parties understand the consequences of crossing these limits. Consistency in enforcing these boundaries can help teens understand the expectations.
There's also relaxation techniques. Incorporate relaxation techniques at home to help teens manage anger in the moment. Techniques like muscle tensing and releasing or visualization of a safe and calming place can provide immediate relief during heated moments. And finally, we say this a lot, you should seek professional help. If anger issues persist or become detrimental, consider seeking professional help. Anger management programs, therapy, and counseling can offer teens the necessary tools to navigate their emotions and develop healthier coping mechanisms.
By combining these strategies, parents can play a significant role in helping their teens develop the skills to manage anger, communicate effectively, and navigate challenging emotions in a productive way. So after talking about all of that, and they're all many things that we've talked about numerous times dealing with other emotions other than anger, considering all the strategies that we've mentioned for managing anger, like offering support and teaching problem solving, which ones resonate most with you, do you think?
The offer support ones resonates with me because, I feel like that's one that is very helpful. It pretty much shows that, you're willing to help your teen. You don't just think it's some sort of phase or them being rebellious. And it shows that you actually care about your teen enough to, want to admit that, yes, this is a bit of a problem, but don't worry, I'm here for you.
Now, you play a supporting role emotionally with a lot of your friends for a lot of other scenarios that we've talked about on the podcast in the past. Do you find that any of your friends have anger issues that you have helped them cope with or guide them through based on your own experiences?
Yeah, I do remember that some of my friends who were around the age that I started to have struggles with trying to control my emotions. Around the time that they were that age, they also had similar issues to mine, and pretty much whenever they would get angry at each other or would just be angry in general, they would talk to me, and I'd always tell them, hey, best thing to do, get away from whatever's making you angry, try, some coping strategies. And if they ever did, need to rant to me about, like, whatever problem they were having, I was always like, okay, let me hear the situation, tell me what's going on, I'll see what I can do to help.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like you said before, just being able to talk it through, having someone that can just listen to the problems that you're running into can be a great way to de-stress and relieve some of that anger that you might have. So whether it's an adult, whether it's a counselor or a parent, or just another friend, having someone there that can listen, that won't judge you, but will give you your space and hear you out, I think is a huge help that can benefit teens.
Yeah.
So I think that's all we had. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get your closing thoughts and finish up the business of the podcast.
All right, so to everybody out there, I just want to say that anger is a very natural, very normal emotion. It's something I feel everybody pretty much experiences, obviously on different levels. I feel anger can be very productive when it's able to be used in such a way, but it can also be very destructive. Finding good ways of coping with anger, I feel, is very important. And to parents out there who are experiencing who have teens that have issues with dealing with anger, I feel like, offering support is the best thing to do. Don't judge them for it. Don't, resort to teen stereotypes thinking it's just a phase they're going through or they're just being rebellious. A lot of the time that's kind of going to invalidate their feelings, and it's more than likely going to make them not really trust you as much. So really best to do is just offer support and help guide them through it.
Sage advice as always.
Thank you.
Another fantastic topic. Before we do go, I want to once again implore our listening and viewing audience to subscribe to the podcast. You can find audio versions of this podcast listed as Insights into Teens. You can find video and audio versions of all the network's podcasts listed as Insights into Things. And we're on Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you can get a podcast. Also, be sure to reach out to us. Tell us how we're doing. Give us your suggestions for topics. You can email us at comments@insightsintothings.com. You can find us on X at insights_things. We do have high-res versions of all of our videos on YouTube at youtube.com/insightsintothings. We still stream 5 days a week on Twitch at twitch.tv/insightsintothings. And you can find links to all that and more on our official website at www.insightsintothings.com. And you.
And don't forget to check out our other two podcasts, Insights into Entertainment, now being hosted by you and Sam, and Insights into Tomorrow. Not really sure how many times we're going to be doing it, but it's hosted by you and my mother.
For the record, we've got 2 episodes scripted out and ready to go. We'll probably be filming one later this week after the holiday. That's it, folks. Another one in the books.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Insightful podcasts by informative hosts. Insights into Things, a podcast network. Welcome to Insights into Teens, a podcast series exploring the issues and challenges of today's youth. Your hosts are Joseph and Madison Whalen, a father and daughter team making their way through the challenges of the teenage years.
Welcome to Insights into Teens. This is episode 184, Helping Teens Avoid FOMO, or Fear of Missing Out. I'm your host, Joseph Whalen, and my active and involved co-host, Madison Whalen.
Hi, everyone. Interesting adjectives for today.
Are you active and involved, or no?
Probably not today, but you know.
Not so much, huh? Well, I know you're not feeling so good today. How was the rest of the week so far for you, though?
Not terrible, I guess.
That's good, I guess.
I mean, you know, just trying to get back into the swing of things after Thanksgiving break, so.
Anything exciting? I know you missed a few quizzes today because of absent teachers.
Yeah, we're going to be doing all that tomorrow, so fun.
Right. So one exciting thing we did have to report today, we just got the first sample in here, a piece of original artwork that you did. That was, let me see the cup here. So this was original artwork that you did for Baldur's Gate, because we've been playing the game quite religiously now.
Yep.
And we just got some new, what are these, tumblers or mugs, or what are these things called?
Well, they're not mugs. I'm assuming they're called tumblers.
Tumblers, maybe they're tumblers. Anyway, you too can own a custom Baldur's Gate piece of artwork from Madison. We can get you these tumblers for $20 each if you want those. Just write in and let us know. But it's got all the main characters. What your companion characters, it's got the pets, and it's got a nice little blank space there, so you can even color in your own Tav, whatever your custom character is. Anyway, it was worthwhile. I think we had to plug it just because it was really cool, because I like it.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of the sales pitch. So FOMO, which stands for fear of missing out, is a common issue among teenagers that can lead to feelings of isolation. It goes beyond the concern of missing a specific event and instead involves an ongoing fear of being excluded. Adolescents experiencing FOMO often believe that enjoyable and exciting activities are happening elsewhere without their involvement. On today's episode of Insights into Things, Insights into Teens, they're technically both the same thing because everything falls under Insights into Things.
Yeah.
Disclaimer there. We're going to talk about FOMO, how it affects teens, and how to help teens, not teams, how to help teens. They could be teams of teens how to combat this very real issue.
And we're already making up words, or not making up words.
Going
just
off script. It's a very fluid script that we have today.
Pretty much.
Before we do that, though, I do want to put another plug in there for the podcast itself. I would invite our listening and viewing audience out there to subscribe to the podcast. You can find audio versions of this podcast listed as Insights into Teens, or you can find audio and video versions of all the network's podcasts listed as Insights into Things, pretty much anywhere you can get a podcast these days. I would also invite you to write in. Give us your feedback. Tell us whether or not you like our mugs. And give us your suggestions for show topics. We are available at comments@insightsintothings.com for email. You can hit us on Twitter at insights_things or X or whatever Elon's calling it this week. You can also find all these links and more on our official website at www.insightsintothings.com. Shall we get started?
Sure.
Here we go. So our friends at Newport Academy once again enlighten us for today's topic. So fear of missing out is a term that encapsulates a prevalent psychological phenomenon in today's digital era, especially in the context of social media and smartphone usage. This concept, while addressing a long-existing human emotion, has gained significant relevance in contemporary society, as evidenced by its addition to the Oxford English Dictionary in 2013. This inclusion marks a recognition of how its growing impact in the modern, digitally connected world has had an effect on everyone.
The emergence and... I'm not even going to try that one. Proliferation of social media platforms have profoundly influenced how teenagers perceive and engage with their social environments. Platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat offer a continuous stream of updates and images from peers and acquaintances. These posts often depict the most enjoyable and exciting moments of people's lives, focusing heavily on positive and enviable experiences. This phenomenon leads to a distorted perception of reality among adolescents, who are regularly exposed to these highly curated and selective portrayals of others' lives.
The constant exposure to idealized representations on social media can make teenagers feel that their own lives are comparatively dull or unfulfilling. The contrast between the exciting lives they perceive online and their own daily experiences can create a sense of dissatisfaction or longing. This is particularly impactful during adolescence, a time when social belonging and peer perception are highly emphasized. The disparity between the online world's highlights and their own reality can intensify feelings of FOMO, leading teenagers to believe they're missing out on experiences that everyone else seems to be enjoying.
FOMO, therefore, is not just about the fear of missing out on events or experiences, but extends to a deeper concern about social belonging, self-esteem, and personal fulfillment in comparison to others. It underscores the psychological impact of social media on young individuals, shaping their understanding of social norms and expectations. This digital age phenomenon calls for increased awareness and strategies to mitigate its negative effects on the well-being of adolescents.
Fear of missing out is particularly acute among teenagers, who tend to be avid users of social media, except for you, of course. This demographic's engagement with platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat is not only frequent, but often takes on a compulsive quality. Studies have shown a correlation between high levels of FOMO and intense social media usage. Teens typically check their social media feeds as one of the first activities in the morning, the last before sleeping, and even during meals. This pattern suggests a deep-seated need to stay connected, driven by the fear of missing out on something important or exciting happening in their social circles.
The impact of FOMO is not confirmed.
You should stretch before we have these things. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. The impact of FOMO is not confined to digital interactions, but spills over into the physical world, influencing behavior and mental focus. Teenagers experiencing FOMO may find it difficult to concentrate on daily tasks, such as driving or attending classes. The constant pull to check social media updates can lead to distracted driving, a hazardous behavior that endangers not only the teen... The constant pull to check social media updates can lead to distracted driving, a hazardous behavior that endangers not only the teen drivers, but also others on the road. In educational settings, the distraction can diminish their ability to engage with and absorb critical learning materials, impacting their academic performance.
The pervasive nature of social media exacerbates FOMO, as these platforms are designed to showcase a polished, idealized version of life. Constant exposure to such portrayals can foster feelings of inadequacy and isolation among teens as they compare their everyday lives to the highlight reels of their peers. The comparison can create a sense of being left out or falling behind, which in turn can impact their self-esteem and overall emotional well-being.
Addressing and managing FOMO is crucial for the mental health of teenagers in today's digital world. It involves cultivating an understanding of the curated nature of social media content and developing strategies to balance online engagement with real-world experiences. Encouraging healthy digital habits, promoting real-life interactions, and fostering an environment where teenagers can discuss and navigate these challenges are essential steps in mitigating the negative effects of FOMO. This approach can help teens build resilience against the pressures of social media and support their emotional and physiological health in a hyper-connected age.
So they make an interesting point here, drawing the parallels between FOMO and social media, in that what we see on social media really is not an accurate representation of reality. It really is a highlight reel. I think that's a great way to describe it. How do you, and I know you don't regularly use social media, but how would you differentiate the highlight reels that people put up there for their statuses and what they're doing and their influencer stuff and all that stuff? How do you differentiate that from reality and what their lives really are like?
Well, a lot of times I find it kind of easy because when it comes to, certain influencers, a lot of the times they kind of like make humor out of their lives. And like, I always know that when it comes to humor, it can usually be pretty exaggerated. So I'm usually able to kind of differentiate between that, where it's like someone like does something overly extreme and it's like, oh, that was kind of for comedic effect, or just, to, make someone laugh or try to, poke fun at something.
Okay. And I guess that makes sense. I mean, as long as there's a grounded understanding in reality that what you're seeing online is not really what life is. It's almost like watching reality TV and expecting it to represent actual real life. Reality TV has nothing to do with reality.
Yep.
And I think social media is the same thing. So if people are formulating opinions of themselves in their own lives based on that, that's kind of dangerous ground there. In what ways do you suffer from FOMO? Do you suffer from FOMO? I know you're not a particularly social person. You don't have these grand circles of people that you hang out with on a regular basis. Is FOMO an issue for you?
It certainly can be, I'll be honest, because, granted, while I don't have it in relation to social media as much as, some teens would, I do have it when it comes to just being around other people, because I can see that there are, at lunch, there are like groups of friends that hang out with each other and that, talk and are able to, crack jokes with each other. Meanwhile, I'm kind of sitting alone, doing my own work. I'm fine with sitting alone, but it's like, sometimes it'd be nice to have a group of friends to hang out with at lunch.
Right. No, I understand that. Do you notice people in your class or people in your age range, are they as hooked on social media and have this burning need to be updated on a regular basis like the article seems to suggest?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of kids that I know in my school who are either on their phones for like, trying to check out what's been going on, or they're on their phone to play some sort of game, or they use their phone to talk to, their friends. Now, obviously, I don't really know if all of them are like, if it's always social media, but I do know it's kind of something that like a decent amount of people in my school are known for.
Okay. Have you ever felt the need or the pressure to make your life seem more exciting for other people? Are you trying, like, if you're trying to impress somebody or something where having a very positive looking social media feed would kind of feed into that? Have you ever been in a situation like that?
I don't think I've ever really been in a situation where I've like tried to make my life seem better than it is, at least in like my average everyday life. Because like the people that know my average everyday life, I don't feel like I need to impress. And when it comes to other people, I really don't even share much about that. So as someone that really doesn't talk to people or really try to engage with anybody that I, don't already know, I don't think I've really had that issue.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, not being on social media certainly helps, I'm sure. That's part of it. But the fact that you don't even have a need to try to impress people, and the fact that your friends don't have that expectation, is really a testament to you and to your friends and to the character that you look for in friends. I think it's a compliment to you.
Yeah, really, what happens is it's just like I leave stuff out. It's not that I like try to exaggerate certain things. It's just like some more personal aspects about my life. It's like I don't always tell all my friends. So that's the only thing I can think of, really.
That makes sense. All right. I think we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, you can tell us how FOMO impacts mental health.
Sure.
We'll be right back. For over 7 years, the Second Sith Empire has been the premier community guild in the online game Star Wars: The Old Republic. With hundreds of friendly and helpful active members, a weekly schedule of nightly events, annual guild meet and greets, and an active community both on the web and on Discord. The Second Sith Empire is more than your typical gaming group. We're family. Join us on the Starforge server for nightly events such as operations, flashpoints, world boss hunts, Star Wars trivia, guild lottery, and much more. Visit us on the web today at www.thesecondsithempire.com.
Welcome back to Insights into Teens. Today we're talking about helping teens avoid FOMO. And now we're going to talk about how FOMO impacts mental health. The impact of FOMO, or fear of missing out, on adolescent mental health in the digital age is a growing concern, especially given the ubiquity of social media. FOMO, while not a classified mental health condition, can contribute to increased feelings of anxiety and depression among teens, often leading to detrimental effects on their overall well-being. Studies have shown that teenagers who experience high levels of FOMO often report lower life satisfaction and more frequent negative moods. This link is particularly evident in the way FOMO interacts with social media usage, creating a cycle that can lead to stress, disrupted sleep patterns, and an overall increase in negative emotion.
One insightful study involving college freshmen used daily diaries and questionnaires to explore the participants' well-being and life satisfaction, revealing several crucial aspects of how FOMO affects adolescents. The timing and occurrence of FOMO were noted to vary throughout the day, with an increase later in the day and towards the end of the week. This pattern suggests that the anticipation of missing out on social events or activities grows as the weekend, a prime time for socializing, draws near. Importantly, FOMO is not confined to any specific personality type. It affects a wide range of individuals, including both introverted and extroverted teens. This broad impact highlights FOMO's pervasive nature in the adolescent experience.
Another key finding is the impact of FOMO on everyday activities. Teens often feel heightened levels of FOMO when they are engaged in necessary activities like studying or working, as they might perceive these responsibilities as barriers to participating in desirable social events. This conflict between obligation and the desire to be socially involved can exacerbate feelings of FOMO.
The study also revealed that FOMO can lead to significant negative outcomes. It not only triggers negative emotions, but also serves as a major distraction. Adolescents preoccupied with what they might be missing out on can experience considerable emotional turmoil. This preoccupation can detract from their ability to enjoy present moments and engage fully in their current activities. Understanding and addressing the impact of FOMO is therefore crucial for supporting the mental health and emotional development of adolescents in our increasingly digital world.
The correlation between FOMO and spending behaviors, particularly among millennials, sheds light on its broader societal implications. A recent study revealed that a significant portion of millennials, nearly 40%, have incurred expenses beyond their financial capacity, motivated by the urge to keep pace with their peers. This trend reflects how FOMO influences spending choices, pushing individuals towards purchasing experiences, events, and material goods to counteract the feeling of being left out. This phenomenon is especially pronounced in the millennial demographic, driven by a sense that others' accomplishments or experiences are in some way a loss to them, highlighting a competitive aspect of social comparison.
The impact of social media on mental health is significantly magnified by the phenomenon of FOMO. In today's digital age, the urge to remain continuously connected and keep up with peers can lead to increased levels of anxiety, stress, and dissatisfaction. This persistent state of mental strain is not just an individual concern, but also a societal one, emphasizing the need for parents, caregivers, and the community to understand and address these dynamics.
Recognizing how FOMO influences young people's financial decisions and mental well-being is crucial. It's not only about the immediate feelings of missing out, but also about the long-term effects on life satisfaction and emotional health. Young individuals, consistently bombarded with images and updates from their peers, can develop a distorted view of what is normal or desirable, leading them to make financial choices that are unsustainable or detrimental to their long-term goals.
To counteract these effects, it's imperative to develop and implement effective strategies that encourage healthier social media habits. This involves educating teens about the curated nature of social media content, promoting a balanced digital diet, and fostering open conversations about the emotional impact of online interactions. Encouraging activities that are offline and focusing on personal interests and skills can also help to build a sense of self-worth that is not reliant on social validation.
Cultivating emotional and psychological resilience is key. This can be achieved through developing coping strategies for managing anxiety, stress, and dissatisfaction. Teaching young people mindfulness, digital literacy, and critical thinking skills can empower them to navigate the complexities of a digitally dominated world with greater confidence and well-being.
Addressing the pervasive effects of FOMO in the context of social media requires a concerted effort from all stakeholders in society. By fostering awareness, promoting healthy habits, and building resilience, we can support the younger generation in achieving a more balanced and satisfying digital and real-life experience. Now, it's worth noting that was a lot of material that we went through there, and a lot of it sort of kind of nags on social media. This is not a problem that is caused by social media. It is not unique to social media, nor is it solved by getting off of social media. Fear of missing out is a legitimate emotional feeling that has long existed well before even the internet was around. I could say as a young teen, I fell victim to this numerous times. And they make a point of saying that it happens a lot on the weekends. There's not a lot of socialization that happens for teenagers during the week under normal circumstances. So most of that, dances or going to the mall or movies or hanging out with friends, most of that happens on the weekend. And that's usually when most of this sort of creeps up. For me, it was funny because I found it, back when I was your age, the internet didn't exist. Yes, that's how old I am. We had BBSs, bulletin board services, where you would dial into computers over the phone line, and that was essentially what social media was for us back then. And what I found, there were times that when you tried to do that and get online with other people, you couldn't because the phone would be busy. And I found that's where I had my fear of missing out. When I couldn't get online and I couldn't get to these social areas that I would hang out with friends, that's when I would feel it. Have you ever experienced a fear of missing out under any circumstance?
I mean, I guess. Thing is, when it came to the school dances, I know for a while a lot of my friends have been wanting me to go to the school dances, and I only ever really went to one, and that was like kind of an informal dance. Ever since 6th grade, I haven't gone to another one. And I know a lot of my friends, particularly one, is very keen on me trying to go to, another one of the dances. And I guess there was certainly like I don't want to let them down sort of thing. But it wasn't enough to make me go to the dance.
Nice. Okay. So if you don't really experience FOMO the way it's defined here, have you ever been in situations where maybe you felt left out of something and that might be kind of contributing to this?
I mean, yeah. One thing I can say that it's not as big, but certain social trends that, people like, let's just say buzzwords, I guess. There's words there's slang that people my age use it on a daily basis. And for a while, I'm like, what the heck does that mean? I don't get it. And, I'll kind of feel left out in that way, or left out in the new social trend of oh, there's this thing that everybody really likes and everyone's really into it. And I'm like, what is this?
Right.
So,
I gotcha.
Yeah, I guess in a way I feel that's kind of where I kind of feel left out. It's not like an extreme thing, but it's still okay, I really don't get this.
I gotcha. So you're not, addicted or married to your social media, but you still keep up with your friends. What are some of the methods that you typically use to keep in touch with your friends and keep up on things?
Just texting, saying, hey, how you doing? Occasionally calling, and then with some of them, I've been hanging out with them.
Okay.
So
ironically enough, it's more traditional methods that you have. Granted, texting's not traditional, but texting's kind of the equivalent of a phone call these days. Since most people who have cell phones don't actually know you can actually talk to people on them. They use it for everything but phone conversations. So in situations like that, have you found yourself trying to get a hold of a friend and that friend's just not available and you don't know why they're not available, and you may feel that FOMO feeling even for a brief period of time there? Has that ever happened?
I mean, yeah, there have been instances where I've wanted to, like, talk to, like, a friend and they don't, like, respond back. Most of the time, it's not like I'm scared I'm being left out. It's like, oh my God, what happened to them?
Right. So it's a concern for them at that point. So anytime that sounds like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like anytime that you've had these feelings of perhaps being left out, it hasn't had a traumatic effect on you.
Not really.
Your self-esteem hasn't been affected by it. It's kind of like water off the back of a duck. You just sort of roll with it, it sounds like.
Yeah, I ruin my own self-esteem. I don't
You don't need any help with that.
I don't need any help with that.
Okay. Well, that's another podcast we're going to have to revisit, I think.
Yeah.
So we're going to take another break. And when we come back, we'll talk about how to overcome FOMO, even if you don't have it. We'll be right back.
Insights into Entertainment, a podcast series taking a deeper look into entertainment and media. Our husband and wife team of pop culture fanatics are exploring all things from music and movies to television and fandom. We'll look at the interesting and obscure entertainment news of the week. We'll talk about theme park and pop culture news. We'll give you the latest and greatest on pop culture conventions. We'll give you a deep dive into Disney, Star Wars, and much more. Check out our video episodes at youtube.com/insightsintothings. Our audio episodes at podcast.insightsintoentertainment.com, or check us out on the web at insightsintothings.com.
Welcome back to Insights into Teens. Today we're talking about helping teens avoid FOMO. And now we're going to talk about how to overcome FOMO. The strategy of limiting social media usage to combat FOMO, particularly among teenagers, has been increasingly recognized as a way to enhance mental well-being. A notable study titled No More FOMO explored the effects of reducing social media entanglement on emotional and physiological health, offering insights into the benefits of disconnecting from these platforms.
The study involved 143 undergraduate students from the University of Pennsylvania. Initially, researchers assessed the participants' usual social media habits, focusing on their engagement with platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. This initial phase provided a baseline understanding of their typical online behaviors.
Participants were split into two groups. One group was instructed to limit their social media use to just 10 minutes per platform each day, while the other group continued their normal usage patterns. After 3 weeks, the results of the study were revealing. The group that altered to the 10-minute limit experienced a significant decrease in feelings of loneliness and depression compared to the control group. This finding suggests that actively reducing time spent on social media can lead to notable improvements on emotional well-being.
Participants in both groups became conscious of the impact of their social media interactions. This heightened awareness points to the benefits of mindful engagement with digital platforms, indicating that a more thoughtful approach to social media can enhance emotional health. Interestingly, both groups, including those who didn't change their social media usage, showed reductions in anxiety and FOMO during the study. The outcome implies that simply being more mindful and aware of social media use, even without imposing strict limits, can have a positive effect.
The study's conclusion advocates for restricting social media use to about 30 minutes per day, suggesting that this can lead to significant improvements in overall well-being. The findings reinforce the idea that balancing connectivity with healthy technological boundaries is crucial for maintaining good mental health. This approach highlights the importance of managing digital interactions in a way that supports rather than detracts from emotional and physiological health.
So obviously, all of those techniques to overcome this kind of center and revolve around the premise that social media is a major contributor. We already acknowledge the fact that it's a contributor, but it's not the only factor. So there's a number of other techniques that we can talk about. Addressing and overcoming FOMO involves more than just reducing social media use. It requires understanding its root causes and actively engaging in positive strategies to enhance well-being. This means acknowledging that the issue isn't solely the fault of social media. Instead of getting caught in the trap of constant comparisons with others, teens can adapt several effective approaches to better manage FOMO.
Encouraging teens to maintain a gratitude level. Encouraging teens to maintain a gratitude journal or a positivity notebook helps them focus on the positive aspects of their lives. This practice of reflection and appreciation can bolster self-esteem and diminish the sense of missing out on something supposedly better. Another beneficial activity is volunteering, which allows teens to contribute positively to their community. This not only provides valuable social interactions outside the digital realm, but also instills a sense of purpose and connection to a larger goal.
Spending time outdoors is another crucial strategy. You and I love to do that. Being in nature, away from technology, offers a respite for the nervous system and can mitigate the negative effects of FOMO. Physical activities and the calming influence of natural surroundings positively impact mental health. Building authentic connections with peers is also vital. Strong, understanding, and caring friendships can significantly reduce the emotional stress associated with FOMO.
Pursuing passions, be it through creative activities or hobbies, is also instrumental in combating FOMO. Engaging in activities that teens are passionate about can enhance their self-esteem and provide a sense of achievement, counteracting the feelings of inadequacy often fueled by FOMO. Lastly, it's important to recognize when FOMO becomes overwhelming. If a teen struggles to detach from their phone and this behavior interferes with their daily life, it may indicate underlying mental health issues such as depression or anxiety. In such cases, seeking help from mental health professionals is crucial. Early identification and intervention can effectively address these concerns.
Overcoming FOMO involves a multifaceted approach that empowers teens to appreciate their lives, engage in fulfilling activities, nurture real-life relationships, and seek professional help when necessary. By focusing on these diverse strategies, teens can effectively lessen the impact of FOMO and improve their overall well-being. So I think throughout the discussion here, we've kind of established the fact that you're not particularly susceptible to FOMO. Do you have any friends that you think may be going through some of the things that we talked about here, that some of these techniques might actually help?
Yeah, probably. I might not know them off the top of my head or know which friends would probably be more susceptible to it than others, but yeah, I do believe that some of my friends are probably dealing with something like this, and hopefully, if I end up bringing this up to them, they'll be able to. It'll be able to help.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it might be one of those things where you just never talk to them about it, and they don't even realize they might be going through it. So do you do any of the techniques that they talked about here, or a gratitude journal, or I know you don't engage in outdoor activities a lot, but pursue hobbies and stuff like that? Obviously, given the artwork that we have on the cup that we have now, we know you do pursue hobbies. Do you find solace in any of these types of things?
Well, keeping a gratitude journal, I don't really do that. I remember I tried doing something like that, and then it was just, I stopped.
It wasn't very gratifying.
Yeah, so, that's not really something that connects with me as much. Maybe if I actually put in the effort, but,
Okay.
Volunteering, I want to volunteer at some point. I haven't yet. I'm working on that.
That's up there with the gratitude journal.
Spending time outdoors, obviously, I don't do that. Building connections with my peers, I've technically been doing that with specific peers, but, peers nonetheless.
Okay.
Pursuing passions, clearly, that's probably one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
So pursuing passions certainly resonates with me. So, yeah, I guess the last two are really...
Okay, well, it's good to see that some of these things are activities that you engage in, because not only do they help with FOMO, they help with a number of other emotional management type things that we have to deal with on a regular basis. So in your experience, how important is it to have strong and real life connections with your friends? And what are some of your techniques for establishing and maintaining those?
Oh, interesting that you're asking me that. I do think it's important to have at least someone that you can talk to.
Just one person.
It doesn't need to be, an entire group of people. If it's an entire group of people, cool. If it's like one or two people, cool. I do feel like having that support group is certainly good. And I don't think anyone should feel, less adequate if they don't have a huge group of friends over like someone else that they know. So, just having at least somebody, I feel, is good.
Quality over quantity.
Yep.
That makes sense.
And for getting said friend and maintaining that relationship, I guess just be yourself, and someone will probably come around and like you and enough to hang out with you. And in order to maintain that relationship, just keep up open communication and, again, continue to be yourself. Don't, put on a mask for anybody. Don't pretend to be something you're not. I guess that's the best advice I can give, because I really don't.
Well, and I think that's sound advice. I think being genuine is important. And I think FOMO kind of lends to this being genuine to yourself type thing. When people are more concerned about what other people think, and they start acting and behaving and doing things for the benefit of others because they want to fit in, then they're really not being themselves. And there's only so long that you can keep up that facade, right? So if you make friends with someone on false pretense, you have to pretend to be that false person whenever you're around that other person. And I have to imagine that's just exhausting.
Yeah.
Right? And it's going to make you miserable. And then the other person's going to think you're disingenuous at that point in time.
Yep.
So you're right. Be yourself, and you're going to find some people like you for who you are, and some people won't. And we can't please everybody all the time, right?
Yeah.
So be yourself, like yourself first. Once you like yourself, then I think you'll find other people are going to like you as well. And then you won't have to go through FOMO. You'll be in that social circle.
Yay.
So I think that kind of wraps it up for us today. We're going to take a quick break, come back. We'll get your clothing thoughts. Yeah. What do you think of clothing today? No, we'll get your closing thoughts and then finish up with the business of the podcast. We'll be right back.
All right, so to everybody out there, I just wanted to say that being able to connect with people in a way that's not artificial and also being genuine to yourself and the way that you want to live your life, I feel is very important. Obviously, FOMO isn't just an effect when it comes to things like social media. It's the fear of missing out. It's the fear of missing out on stuff that your friends can go through. It's the fear of missing out on stuff you see on social media. It's just the fear of not being able to accept your life as it is and appreciating what you have. So really, all I'm going to say is that, find value in your life, and even if it's not as grand as someone else's life, or you think that you could be doing better or anything like that, I still think that appreciating the life that you have is good.
All right. I think they were sage words, as always.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to emphasize the one point that you made, and that's appreciation. Appreciate what you have and who you have. Don't covet what somebody else might have, because the perception that you have of what that other person's life is like probably is distorted. It's not reality. Everyone posts all these wonderful things on their social media that they're doing. I'm going to this place and having fun with this person. They're not posting the negative stuff up there usually. So just remember, you got to take the good with the bad, but appreciate what you are, who you are, and what you have, and work from there. I think that's it for the podcast today. Before we go, I want to once again invite you to subscribe to the podcast. You can find audio versions of this podcast listed as Insights into Teens. You can find video and audio versions of all the network's podcasts listed as Insights into Things. We're anywhere you get a podcast these days: Apple, Spotify, Google, etc. I would also encourage you to write in and give us your feedback. Tell us what you think. You can email us at comments@insightsintothings.com. You'll find high-res versions of all our videos on YouTube at youtube.com/insightsintothings. We do stream 5 days a week on Twitch at twitch.tv/insightsintothings. Or you can find links to all those and more on our website at www.insightsintothings.com. And you.
And don't forget to check out our other two podcasts, Insights into Entertainment, hosted by you and Sam now, and Insights into Tomorrow, hosted by you and Mommy now.
Very good. That's it. Another one in the books.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Insightful podcasts by informative hosts. Insights into Things, a podcast network. Welcome to Insights into Teens, a podcast series exploring the issues and challenges of today's youth. Your hosts are Joseph and Madison Whalen, a father and daughter team making their way through the challenges of the teenage years.
Welcome to Insights into Teens. This is episode 185, Toxic Positivity. I am your host, Joseph Whalen, and my confident and aware co-host, Madison Whalen.
Hi, everyone.
How you doing today, Maddie?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Doing spectacular. Anything exciting going on with you?
Had a test today. That was interesting, I guess.
I heard we also got your class standings.
Yep.
And you're what in your class now?
Number 2.
Number two. We're going to have to go after that number 1 spot there. Yeah.
It's probably best not to try doing that because, it doesn't do wonders for the mental health.
True. I didn't say how we were going to do it, though, so.
Okay, yeah. Might not want to admit that on the podcast.
Coaching is what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh. Although I'm pretty sure number one's Kenny, so.
Right. Well, we can have a discussion with Kenny. But anyway, today we are talking about toxic positivity, and that sounds like a bit of an oxymoron to some people. The constant messages encouraging optimism and positivity are not always beneficial. While fostering optimism is fine, there is a concept known as toxic positivity, suggesting that an excessive focus, on positivity can have negative effects. That's what we're going to be talking about today on this episode of Insights into Teens. But before we do that, though, I would want to take a moment to invite our listening and viewing audience out there to subscribe to the podcast. You can find audio versions of this podcast listed as Insights into Teens. You can find audio and video versions of all the network's podcasts listed as Insights into Things, pretty much anywhere you can get a podcast. I would also ask you to write in, give us your feedback, tell us how we're doing. Email us at comments@insightsintothings.com. Check us out on X at insights_things. Or you can get links to all those and all of our other social media links on our website at www.insightsintothings.com. Shall we get started?
Sure.
Here we go. So what is toxic positivity? The modern era is inundated with messages that advocate for an optimistic and positive perspective, often encapsulated in phrases like look on the sunny side or be positive. These notions are widely disseminated across social media platforms and self-help articles. While the intention behind these messages is to promote well-being and resilience, mental health experts are urging a more nuanced approach to their adoption. While fostering an optimistic outlook does indeed offer numerous advantages, the emergence of the concept known as toxic positivity underscores the potential drawbacks of unconditionally embracing positive emotions.
Optimism and positivity play crucial roles in enhancing mental and emotional health. These attitudes can facilitate coping with challenges, fostering a sense of hope, and promoting overall well-being. However, when these messages are oversimplified and rigidly applied without consideration for individual circumstances, they can lead to an unbalanced and unrealistic approach to emotions.
Toxic positivity encapsulates the idea that individuals should suppress or ignore any emotions that deviate from positivity. The belief is that by solely focusing on the positive aspects of life, one can achieve perpetual happiness. Yet this perspective overlooks the intricate tapestry of human emotions and experiences. Emotions such as sadness, anger, frustration, and fear are all natural responses to life's complexities, and they hold valuable information about our inner state that needs.
Mental health experts caution against uncritically embracing toxic positivity for several reasons. Suppressing negative emotions can lead to emotional invalidation and denial.
Not just a river in Africa.
Yep. Preventing individuals from authentically processing their feelings. This denial can impede personal growth, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence. Moreover, constantly attempting to maintain a facade of positivity can be emotionally exhausting and create an unrealistic standard that is difficult to sustain.
The key lies in embracing a balanced approach to emotions, one that acknowledges both positive and negative feelings. True emotional well-being comes from recognizing that all emotions are valid and serve a purpose. By allowing ourselves to experience and express a wide range of emotions, we develop greater self-acceptance, resilience, and emotional agility. This approach empowers individuals to navigate life's challenges with authenticity and a more comprehensive understanding of themselves and their emotions. Do you think that you, in your experience, have been, I don't want to say victim, but have experienced this culture of toxic positivity?
I mean, yeah. I don't think I've experienced it in like a very extreme form, but I do feel like the idea of suppressing your emotions has kind of, if it wasn't really directed towards me, it's something I've probably imposed on myself. And, the idea of not wanting to, openly express emotions, with certain people or in public. And, you technically had the analogy of that our emotions are basically like a boiling teapot. If you keep it closed off for too long, and by basically, the equivalent of suppressing your emotions, if you let it build up consistently, it eventually explodes, much like someone would explode emotionally if they had to consistently suppress their emotions.
Right. That's a good point. So, in your opinion, what impact does constantly maintaining a positive facade have on a teenager's ability to authentically process their true emotions?
I personally feel like consistently having a positive mindset would be very damaging to someone who wanted to authentically express their emotions. Now, I know I'm not a ray of positivity, and for a while I really wasn't a ray of positivity, and I can understand why, for a while I was on the opposite side of positivity, where I thought every day was terrible. That mindset isn't healthy, and obviously I needed to eventually manage that and change that mindset. However, thinking every day is great or trying to force every day to be great, I feel like is just as damaging.
And I would tend to agree with that. I mean, nobody has a perfect life. Nobody has a perfect day every day of their life. Life is about balance, not only just from a positive, negative emotion standpoint, but in general, life is about balance. And if the pendulum swings too far to either side, positive or negative, there's implications to it. Have you experienced a situation where just flat out blind positivity was ever demanded of you, either in school or maybe when you were in marching band or even around the house? I mean, are mommy and I, so trying to basically tell you to be positive all the time and not deal with negative emotions?
I mean, not directly, I'll say that much. I will say, though, there have been times where you've kind of had instances where there's like a bit of toxic positivity that slipped in. Obviously, you've told me that, like, not to suppress my emotions, and, I do take that advice to heart. However, there certainly are instances where you've told me that I should probably be thinking more positively, more around the times of when I was thinking more negatively. At that point, it did kind of help, but even then, I was not at a mindset where I was really willing to want to think positively, and the idea of forcing myself to think positively when everything just seemed so negative was not really helpful.
I can certainly see that. And I kind of remember some of those circumstances there. And kind of the way I look at life in general when it comes to this sort of stuff is the negative things that we have to deal with are challenges, just like anything else in our life. And learning how to deal with those challenges not only gets us through the challenges, but it also teaches us valuable life lessons as well. So no matter how negative things are, there's always something positive that you can make out of it if you look for it. If you don't look for positive, I'm not, what they're talking about from a toxic positivity standpoint is ignore something if it's not positive.
Or feign positivity.
Or feign it, fake it. One of the things that they mention is authenticity. You should always be authentic to yourself. But even in the times that we're at our darkest, lowest point, you should always be looking for that light at the end of the tunnel, hoping it's not a train. But, if you don't look for positivity, if you don't look for a way out of the quagmire that you can get into, then chances are you're never going to find your way out. Because if you're not looking for the light, you're not going to find it.
Yeah.
So that, to me, is not toxic positivity. That's kind of that escape clause when you get down into the dumps, or when you're depressed or you're negative or you feel like the world's against you. That's your way of trying to elevate yourself above it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and maybe I didn't go about it the best way. Why don't you tell us what the pitfalls of toxic positivity are?
The core premise of toxic positivity is centered around the idea that negativity and discomfort should be ignored or suppressed in favor of a perpetual state of positivity. This approach tends to oversimplify the complexity of human emotions and experiences. It creates an expectation that individuals should consistently maintain a cheerful, optimistic demeanor regardless of their genuine emotional state or the challenges they might be facing.
The pitfalls of toxic positivity become apparent when its implications are examined more closely. Emotional suppression, for instance. Ignoring or suppressing negative emotions in an attempt to uphold a positive facade can prevent individuals from authentically addressing their feelings. This emotional suppression can lead to an accumulation of unresolved emotions, which may eventually manifest in more pronounced psychological distress, very similar, like you said, if you hold that all inside.
There's also the invalidation of genuine feelings. Toxic positivity may inadvertently invalidate individuals' genuine feelings of sadness, anger, frustration, or fear. That sounds like alliteration. This can make people feel as though their emotions are unwarranted or insignificant, leading to a sense of isolation and a lack of emotional validation.
We also have to consider emotional complexity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Human emotions are intricate and multifaceted. Attempting to simplify them by focusing solely on positivity ignores the richness of our emotional landscape. Negative emotions often hold valuable insights and can contribute to personal growth and self-awareness.
We also have to consider unrealistic expectations. Constantly striving for a state of unyielding positivity sets unrealistic expectations that are nearly impossible to sustain. When individuals inevitably encounter challenges or hardships, the pressure to remain positive at all times can incentivize feelings of failure or inadequacy.
And finally, we have the avoidance of genuine healing. Facing and processing negative emotions is an integral part of emotional healing and growth. By glossing over these emotions, individuals miss out on opportunities for genuine healing and transformation.
While cultivating an optimistic outlook and focusing on the positive aspects of life can be beneficial, it should not come at the expense of denying or suppressing negative emotions. True emotional well-being arises from embracing the entirety of our emotional experiences, understanding the nuances, and developing healthy coping mechanisms to navigate through the ups and downs of life. An approach that values emotional authenticity, self-compassion, and balanced emotional processing is more likely to contribute to lasting mental well-being.
So how do you think the pressure of toxic positivity affects the way that teenagers interact with each other and express their genuine feelings, especially in challenging and uncomfortable situations?
Well, I feel like there's this kind of thing in general when it comes to society, along with, teens being social with each other and just people being social in general, is the idea that being emotional in public is something that shouldn't be happening or is something that people need to learn to control, or the idea of emotional control. Obviously, that's important, but, I found that thing is, I'm a person that doesn't, when people, say to me, how are you doing today? How's your day going? I normally respond in a very it was fine, it was all right. I don't really respond in oh, it was a great day, or oh, it was pretty good. Because I don't really like feigning that sort of thing, because, like, I never really know how my day is going. Even as someone who's less negative than I was before, I still don't really say I have a good day or say that I'm doing good. But I feel like a lot of people almost feel like they have to say that, or like whenever people ask that, they never really expect me to say things like, oh, I'm all right, or I'm fine, or whatever.
And I think a lot of times when people ask that, they really don't care either. It's just a conversation starter in a lot of cases. Like, hey, how you doing? And then they just move on and continue with the conversation. And I think as a result of that, it's become kind of a ubiquitous type of handshake response. Like, how you doing? Doing great. Okay, let's move on to what we really need to talk about.
Yeah, a lot of people really don't take into consideration, like, if you ask someone how they're doing, like, that's can be a pretty loaded question to a lot of people, because obviously we don't know what people are going through, and like someone could be going through a lot of different stuff, but they don't show it at all because they're too scared to be emotionally vulnerable around a lot of people, which is understandable. But I don't think should be happening, and I don't think people should be feigning, positivity, at least to that extreme.
I agree. And honestly, I appreciate the authenticity that you have, because, you call me, you call mommy when you get home from school, and we have a little debrief real quick. There are days that you don't want to have that call. And when that happens, you text us to make sure you're okay and safe, and you just aren't ready for a conversation. When you do want to have that conversation and you allude to the fact that it wasn't a great day, that spawns conversation. That might prompt someone like mommy or I to maybe pick up, dessert or something on the way. Something like that to try to lift your spirits, or it might dictate how the conversation goes. Maybe I won't be as,
You won't poke as much of a stick in my cage.
I won't be such a stick poker if I know you didn't have a good day. So it helps to set the tone, but it also helps to gauge reactions from other people if you're honest. But if you're right, and people aren't honest about that, and you just say everything's okay, that's probably a legitimate form of toxic positivity right there.
Yeah, and like, obviously, I don't think you need to be like emotionally vulnerable with everybody you meet. I can understand not wanting to like say something like that to like a coworker you don't really know, but especially to the people that like you trust and like you're close with, I don't feel like it's the most, I don't know, I just feel like we could at least normalize the idea of, if someone asks you if you're okay, understand that that's a bit of a loaded question, so don't always be prepared for someone to just be like, oh, I'm good, and then just brush it off.
Right. And that authenticity, be genuine to yourself, be genuine to the others around you. It's okay to be guarded, depending on who that audience is, but don't be misleading for the sake of trying to get past that question. I think we're going to take our first break here. When we come back, you can tell us about why negative emotions aren't really negative. We'll be right back. For over 7 years, the Second Sith Empire has been the premier community guild in the online game Star Wars: The Old Republic. With hundreds of friendly and helpful active members, a weekly schedule of nightly events, annual guild meet and greets, and an active community both on the web and on Discord. The Second Sith Empire is more than your typical gaming group. We're family. Join us on the Starforge server for nightly events such as operations, flashpoints, world boss hunts, Star Wars trivia, guild lottery, and much more. Visit us on the web today at www.thesecondsithempire.com.
Welcome back to Insights into Teens. Today we're talking about toxic positivity, and now we're going to talk about why negative emotions aren't really negative. The categorization of emotions into negative and positive is a simplification that reflects the general valence, or emotional tone of an experience. While this labeling can provide a basic framework for understanding our emotional landscape, it's important to acknowledge that emotions are complex and multifaceted. It's important to acknowledge that emotions are complex and multifaceted phenomenon that contribute significantly to our psychological and emotional well-being. In fact, the concept of categorizing emotions as purely negative or positive oversimplifies their richness and potential benefits.
Emotions are intricate responses to our thoughts, perceptions, experiences, and bodily sensations. They carry valuable information about our inner world and our external interactions. Rather than categorizing emotions into rigid dichotomies, it's more accurate to view them as a diverse range of responses that serve distinct purposes. Understanding and embracing these so-called negative emotions is essential for personal growth and emotional resilience in the following ways. It provides insights into needs and values. All emotions, whether considered negative or positive, provide insights into our needs, values, and desires. For example, feelings of frustration or dissatisfaction can indicate areas of life where our needs are not being met or where there's a misalignment with our values. Acknowledging and exploring these emotions can guide us towards making meaningful changes.
It also provides a balanced emotional landscape. Emotions are interconnected and interdependent. Suppressing or denying so-called negative emotions can disrupt the balance of our emotional landscape. Just as we experience joy and contentment, we also experience sadness, anger, and fear. Each emotion serves a purpose and contributes to the richness of our emotional experience.
Emotional resilience is another consideration. Developing emotional resilience involves the ability to navigate both challenging and positive emotions. Embracing and understanding the full spectrum of emotions enhances our capacity to cope with difficulties, bounce back from setbacks, and adapt to changing circumstances.
Self-awareness and growth is also something to consider. Engaging with a wide range of emotions fosters self-awareness and personal growth. When we explore our emotional responses, we gain insight into our triggers, patterns, and reactions. This self-awareness empowers us to make intentional choices and engage in personal development.
It also helps us with effective communication. Emotions are a vital component of effective communication. Expressing and understanding emotions helps us connect with others on a deeper level, fostering empathy, understanding, and healthy relationships.
Finally, it also helps with processing and healing. So-called negative emotions, such as sadness or anger, often arise in response to challenging situations or past wounds. Allowing ourselves to experience and process these emotions is an essential step toward healing and letting go of emotional baggage.
The dichotomy of negative and positive emotions is a simplified framework that doesn't capture the complexity and value of our emotional experiences. Understanding and embracing the full range of emotions contributes to emotional well-being, personal growth, and enhanced resilience. By acknowledging the role of so-called negative emotions and learning to navigate them, we cultivate a deeper understanding of ourselves and develop the emotional tools necessary to lead fulfilling lives. So I know we've done a podcast on negative emotions in the past. How do you feel about the concept of labeling emotions negative or positive?
Yeah, that's the thing. I know that for a while I had kind of done that sort of thing where it's like, I don't really, I would label certain emotions as being bad, or that, I was feeling angry, so that means that I'm not feeling great. And, at this point, I kind of realized that it's more about, the mood and mindset when it came to the emotions rather than the emotions themselves. Because now I've kind of learned to understand that pretty much any emotion can be used in a constructive way. Anger can be used to understand an injustice that happens and, have someone, encourage someone to basically go and stop that injustice. And like we said, frustration can help us understand if our needs aren't being met. So at this point, I don't necessarily label my emotions anymore. Like, I might say I feel a certain way, but I don't really, like, I might say I feel an emotion or that I might feel negatively or positively, but I never really try to use the two of them together. I kind of just say I'm feeling this way or I feel positive or negative.
Okay. So can you recall a time when you felt pressure to suppress a negative emotion, maybe to appear strong or unaffected if you happen to be in a bad mood or something?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things. The daily one probably has to be when it came to just when I feel terrible at school because, like, at that point I kind of have to get my day over with, and then when I get home I can kind of let it out. But it can be kind of hard to hold all that in, especially considering I don't really have many breaks because I have like 6 classes in a row until I actually have lunch. So it's like, if I feel bad during like second period, I have to hold on to that for like the entirety of that time until I can finally get a kind of break. But even then, I can't really let all of it out until I'm home. So that's certainly like the daily thing. A more personal one was kind of when Dorian died, when Dorian was having to be put down, because, we had to make the right decision because we didn't want her to suffer, and we knew that she probably didn't have much time left. And for a while, when we were there, we had to kind of suppress it, and I mainly suppressed it to help comfort Mommy, because, I don't think either of us were really holding it together well, but I kind of tried to hold on to help her.
Yeah, it's tough, and it's situational, and sometimes, sometimes you have to. It's not like you want to suppress the emotions, but I think when my mom passed away, and somebody had to make the arrangements and call the funeral home and do all that stuff and get all our belongings together. And it's one of those things where it hurts so much, you just sort of want to crawl into a ball and not be bothered by the world, just deal with it. And I didn't have the luxury of that. You kind of have to push those down for a little bit to still be functional. You can't let yourself get to the point of being non-functional overall. So there's dangers to toxic positivity, too. Why don't you tell us about some of the dangers?
Toxic positivity, an environment that overly emphasizes the need for perpetual positivity, can have significant repercussions on the emotional well-being of teenagers and young adults, whether it manifests in personal interactions or online spaces. This culture often emerges due to various factors, including parents' uncertainty about how to support their adolescents, a fear of confronting the seriousness of underlying issues, or the amplification of a superficially happy image on social media platforms.
Parents might unintentionally encourage toxic positivity as they strive to help their teens by urging them to remain positive in the face of difficulties. This could stem from a lack of knowledge about effective emotional support strategies or a hesitancy to address potentially complex and challenging situations head on.
Additionally, the pervasive influence of social media plays a significant role in shaping this culture. Online platforms tend to highlight and glorify the positive aspects of life, fostering a facade of unending happiness, which we kind of talked about last time. As a result, young people are often exposed to a curated version of reality, making them feel that expressing anything other than positivity is not acceptable, which I find interesting because the news is very rarely ever positive.
Touché.
Yeah.
Research indicates that the societal pressure to maintain a facade of constant positivity can have detrimental effects on mental well-being. Shocker. The incessant need to project happiness can lead to feelings of shame and guilt when experiencing negative emotions such as sadness and anger or frustration. This pressure to suppress authentic feelings can exacerbate emotional distress and hinder healthy coping mechanisms.
Toxic positivity can impede honest communication about struggles. Adolescents might feel compelled to conceal their challenges due to the fear of being perceived as weak or inadequate. Consequently, they may resort to...
I lost your spot. Consequently, they may resort to
maladaptive coping strategies, such as turning to substance abuse in an attempt to numb their emotional pain.
So, as a simple analogy here, toxic positivity in this case here that hinders emotional healing is very similar to having an infected cut on your arm, but constantly ripping the Band-Aid off. Like, you're not helping it by pretending it's not there by taking the Band-Aid off. You're just making sure it doesn't heal.
Yeah.
And toxic positivity kind of falls into that same light where we're all going to experience these emotions. And if we suppress them, you don't learn how to deal with them. There's no avoiding the emotions.
Yeah.
And trying to be positive all the time is not the answer.
Definitely.
So how do you think the idea of toxic positivity impacts the way teenagers communicate about their real feelings and struggles, especially in social settings or in family environments?
Well, I can certainly attest to the idea of family environments. Not that, you've been like toxically positive. It's more your reactions to it. And I can understand how, like, if teens experience toxic positivity at home, they wouldn't really want to be open with their parents because either their parents would kind of just try to shut it down and tell them not to worry about it, or, they just wouldn't be able to deal with it properly. So I can understand that, like, if someone is toxically positive to someone else, it would make a teen not want to open up to them or open up to anybody because, again, they'd either be perceived as being weak or their emotions would be ignored and be told to just forget about them.
Okay. What strategies do you think are important for teenagers to develop in order to effectively process and communicate a wide range of emotions, including those often labeled as negative?
Well, I guess the best way to really go about it is to try your best to define it. I know for a while I had a huge issue when it came to trying to actually define my emotions. They were incredibly complex. I had no idea how to go about it, and it prevented me from actually seeking help from the people that I cared about because I couldn't tell them what was wrong. I just felt terrible and I could barely communicate anything. So I feel like one of the first steps anyone can really take is to try your best to define it. Even if you don't have like a concrete definition of what you're feeling, the best thing you can do is to kind of try and figure out exactly what's going on, because if you can at least figure it out, then that's one step towards being able to either be rid of it or have a better way of dealing with it altogether. Knowing in a way what you're feeling allows you to better communicate with people that can actually help you, and it also helps you get a better understanding of how you're feeling as well.
That's a very wise insight into that. And we've talked about it a lot in the past, the ability to identify feelings, to label feelings. And when we say label, we don't mean negative or positive, but, this emotion here is anger or jealousy or frustration. Once you can put that label on it, you can understand it. And once you can understand it, you can start to cope with it at that point in time.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be super specific. If you I know for me, a lot of times there are instances where I'm like crying or I'm really upset and I have no idea why. And like I'm not always able to find a reason why. There's just I'm kind of in a mood. And again, that's more of a broad interpretation of it, but simply just saying that to someone or simply trying to express that like, oh, I'm just not feeling great will still at least, lead to something a little more positive, or at least lead to, okay, I know you're not feeling great. Let's see if we can do something that usually cheers you up.
And that's usually when I start throwing chocolate at you and backing away slowly.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, let's take another break. And when we come back, we can start talking about how to work with negative emotions. We'll be right back.
Insights into Entertainment, a podcast series taking a deeper look into entertainment and media. Our husband and wife team of pop culture fanatics are exploring all things from music and movies to television and fandom. We'll look at the interesting and obscure entertainment news of the week. We'll talk about theme park and pop culture news. We'll give you the latest and greatest on pop culture conventions. We'll give you a deep dive into Disney, Star Wars, and much more. Check out our video episodes at youtube.com/insightsintothings. Our audio episodes at podcast.insightsintoentertainment.com, or check us out on the web at insightsintothings.com.
Welcome back to Insights into Teens. Today we're talking about toxic positivity. And now we're going to talk about how to work with negative emotions, even though we just said that technically there are negative emotions, but,
Right.
It's whatever. We're dealing with it.
Thanks for the disclaimer.
Yep. Navigating and effectively addressing challenging emotions is a fundamental aspect of emotional well-being and personal growth. These are 5 common approaches that provide valuable insight into working with negative emotions while avoiding the pitfalls of toxic positivity. 1 is clinical therapy. Evidence-based therapeutic methods such as cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, and acceptance and commitment therapy offer adolescents and young adults essential tools for confronting and processing difficult emotions. These modalities. This
is why we should do a read-through beforehand.
It's part of the charm. These modalities provide structured frameworks to understand and manage emotions, particularly those arising from trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder. By working with skilled therapists, individuals can learn coping strategies, cognitive reframing techniques, and mindfulness practices that enable them to engage with their emotions in a constructive and healing manner.
There's also creative arts therapy, which we've discussed in the past as well. Art, music, and dance therapy offer nonverbal outlets for expressing intense and painful emotions. These creative modalities provide a safe space for individuals to channel their feelings into artistic expression, facilitating emotional release and catharsis. Through creative processes, teens and young adults can gain insight into their emotions and experiences, fostering a deeper connection with themselves and their feelings.
There's also mindfulness and meditation, which we've also talked about. Mindfulness practices encourage individuals to observe their thoughts and emotions with non-judgmental awareness. By cultivating mindfulness, adolescents can create space between themselves and their emotions, allowing a more balanced and compassionate response. Mindfulness meditation equips teens with the ability to navigate challenging emotions while fostering self-compassion and emotional intelligence.
Last but not least, we have supportive social circles. Building strong social connections provides a crucial foundation for managing negative emotions. Encouraging open and honest communication with peer groups, family, and trusted adults creates an environment where teens feel safe to express their authentic emotions. Connecting with empathic individuals fosters a sense of validation, reducing the pressure to maintain a facade of constant positivity. Supportive relationships offer a space to share experiences, exchange coping strategies, and provide mutual encouragement.
These approaches offer diverse pathways to addressing challenging emotions in a healthy and constructive manner. By embracing evidence-based therapies, creative expression, mindfulness, and supportive relationships, adolescents can develop the tools necessary to navigate their emotional landscapes with resilience, authenticity, and well-being.
So, in what ways do you think creative activities like art, music, and dance, what ways can they help in expressing and processing intense emotions compared to more traditional forms of therapy?
So I do feel like talking with people you trust about your emotions is a good way to, express them. However, it's not always easy because it's verbal and not everything you can say is going to be interpreted the way that you want it to be or really be able to be best expressed that way. That's where things like art, music, and dance come in because, those are usually visual forms of expression, or at least, you can it's more or less you can see it and also feel it at the same time. I feel like being able to see it and feel it instead of just simply hearing someone talking about it it's very beneficial for someone else who's trying to better understand what another person is going through. And if you can express it visually through music or through dance, I feel like that's a very effective way to better get it across if it's something that's kind of just hard to say or put into words.
And I think you're right. I think you're expending energy at the same time. And you're expending a different kind of energy. You're using a different part of your brain to get this type of stuff out. Now we're on the subject of art. This is probably where I should have plugged in the commercial for the new mugs that you made. But is art therapeutic for you, or is it a recreation for you?
Honestly, it can be very therapeutic. I'm not always able to draw when I'm not feeling great, and most of the time it's usually recreational, but I do find that when I get into the zone of art, I don't really tend to worry about everything else going on. It's like everything else kind of just stops and I'm just there with my art and I'm just working on whatever I'm drawing, and the focus I'm able to put in that and the creativity and ideas that I find myself going through when I end up drawing, it's very therapeutic, and it kind of acts as my own therapy even when I don't intend it to be.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You kind of get in that zone there, and once you get in there, it's almost like you're in a meditative state at that point when the creativity is just flowing out through whatever medium you've chosen. Can you describe the role your social circle plays in how you handle negative emotions, or what we're not labeling negative emotions, but complex emotions,
Emotions, yeah. I personally think I have a lot of friends who are very accepting, and I'm very accepting of them. And I feel like the importance of having a social circle that can either, even if they can't always help you with your emotions, the idea of at least them being an outlet for where you can at least express it and talk about it. Because again, the idea of talking through your emotions, like we've said before on the podcast, can be very beneficial. And just having friends that you can trust in order to at least talk with, not even necessarily get advice from, just at least them being there and you being able to trust them, I feel is very beneficial in how you can help deal with your emotions. I've certainly found that to be very helpful because the idea of having friends that, care about my situation if I'm going through something difficult, and friends that are willing to support me even if they don't completely understand it, it tends to help me, realize that okay, I'm going through something right now, but I have a support group and, I can always seem to trust them.
Yeah, having a support system, I think, is vital going through things like this. Not only do they reaffirm things, like you may lose faith in yourself. You may, start to believe some of those negative thoughts in your head, and they're there to kind of pick you up and dust you off and stand you back up and show you what your self-worth really is. And it's not that evil voice that's in your head.
Yeah, that's the thing. Me and my friends kind of joke with each other in the ways of like, we all kind of we're all the positive voices in each other's heads because we're all our own worst enemies.
Yeah. And that's true. I mean, having someone else there that can fill that gap, if you're not capable or in some cases willing to do it yourself, having someone else there to do it can be literally a lifesaver. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about was the need to strive for authentic positivity. Authentic positivity is a holistic approach to emotional well-being that goes beyond the surface level of constant cheerfulness. It recognizes the intricacies of human emotions and the dynamic nature of life experiences. Rather than solely focusing on cultivating positive emotions, authentic positivity acknowledges the entire spectrum of human feelings, both positive and challenging. This approach is rooted in the understanding that both joyous and difficult moments are integral components of the human experience.
One of the fundamental principles of authentic positivity is the acceptance of all emotions without judgment or shame. Instead of suppressing or denying emotions that are commonly labeled as negative, this perspective encourages individuals to embrace their emotions as valid and authentic expressions of their inner world. By giving themselves permission to feel and express a wide range of emotions, individuals can develop a deeper understanding of themselves and their emotional landscapes.
Authentic positivity does not view difficult emotions as obstacles to overcome or ignore. Instead, it acknowledges their presence and significance. This approach recognizes that challenging emotions such as sadness, anger, fear, and frustration serve important functions. They can provide valuable insight into one's values, boundaries, and areas that may need attention or growth. Rather than avoiding these emotions, authentic positivity encourages individuals to navigate them with empathy and self-compassion.
Through embracing both positive and challenging emotions, individuals can develop emotional resilience. This resilience stems from the ability to adapt to different emotional states and situations while maintaining a sense of self-worth and inner stability. Authentic positivity supports individuals in learning healthy ways of coping with challenging emotions. Instead of resorting to avoidance or suppression, individuals are empowered to seek constructive strategies for managing their emotions, which can include seeking professional support, engaging in self-care practices, and utilizing healthy outlets for emotional expression.
Authentic positivity promotes the importance of seeking support from a social network, therapists, mentors, or loved ones. Recognizing that everyone encounters difficulties and struggles at various points in life, this approach encourages individuals to share their experiences and emotions openly. By doing so, they can receive empathy, validation, and guidance from others who have navigated similar challenges.
Authentic positivity offers a comprehensive and compassionate approach to emotional well-being. By embracing the full spectrum of human emotions, individuals can deepen their self-awareness, foster emotional resilience, and enhance their overall quality of life. This approach enables individuals to navigate life's complexities with greater wisdom, self-compassion, and a genuine sense of well-being.
So, do you think you operate in a cloud of toxic positivity these days? Or do you think the positivity that you do have, and you have good days, you have bad days. Do you think the positivity that you have these days is a genuine form of positivity?
I honestly feel like for the most part, I do think that most of the positivity I have tends to be genuine, mainly because I don't always like to hide my negative emotions. Sure, I'll suppress it at times when I don't where I feel like I don't want to express it or feel like I can't express it when it comes to, being in public. But I feel like most of the positivity I experience is genuine. And even then, when I do experience positive emotions, I'm quite shocked at myself. Which, I mean, I shouldn't be shocked, but, it still, feels good, I guess.
Well, and see, the thing is considering where you were and the journey that you've come through, and where you are today, it's good to see that kind of progress. That's the emotional growth, the emotional maturity that we've been talking about a lot on the podcast in the last 20 or 30 episodes that we've done.
Yeah.
So seeing that growth, it's like there's a lot of things that parents see their kids do. They bring home good grades, or you get compliments on how well you behaved you are when you're at a restaurant or something like that. That's all stuff that makes me as a parent feel good, but seeing the growth and in fact, seeing that growth episode after episode really tells me that you're reaching that, emotional maturity level that, you can handle these things. It's sort of like driving, right? When you first started learning how to drive, it was terrifying for me, at least. I mean, we had a couple of scary calls. You didn't have the confidence that you had. And the last time that I took you out, we did highway driving, we did parallel parking, and you were a champ. And it was all a bunch of little steps that got us there. And the journey to learn to manage your complex emotions is the same thing. And that's sort of what we're talking about here, is the toxic positivity degrades from that. As long as you're realistic and you're authentic and you're honest with yourself, that's that level of maturity that everyone's looking for. I think that was all we had today. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back, get your closing thoughts, and finish up the podcast. We'll be right back.
All right, so to everyone out there, I just wanted to say that every emotion someone feels is valid. I wouldn't say any emotion is necessarily positive or necessarily negative, but there are obviously moments where people feel good and people feel bad, and people kind of just feel like they're not really either. And I do understand that people that do spread toxic positivity, for the most part, they do have good intentions. It's just there's not the understanding that suppressing your emotions isn't really very helpful. And to reiterate, suppressing your emotions isn't really helpful. And as long as people are able to understand that, I feel like the idea of communicating it with people that you trust and knowing that it's okay to express your emotions no matter what they are, in, healthy ways and in healthy doses, I feel like is something that everyone can benefit from.
All right. Sage words, as always.
Thank you.
Before we do go, I want to take a moment once again to implore you to subscribe to the podcast. You can find audio-only versions of this podcast listed as Insights into Teens. You can also find audio and video versions of all the network's podcasts listed as Insights into Things. Anywhere you can get a podcast now, Apple, Spotify, Google, etc. I would also encourage you to write in, give us your feedback. Email us at comments@insightsintothings.com. Hit us up on Twitter at insights_things. See, it's not just X, it's both now. You can find high-res versions of all of our videos on YouTube at youtube.com/insightsintothings. We do stream live 5 days a week on Twitch at twitch.tv/insightsintothings. And you can find links to all that and more on our official website at www.insightsintothings.com. And you.
And don't forget to check out our other two podcasts, Insights into Entertainment, hosted by you and Sam now, and Insights into Tomorrow, hosted by you and Mommy.
There we go. I like that. That's much better marketing than the lack of confidence you were giving us before when you were trying to tell us that we do them once in a while.
Look, I don't really know when you guys are doing it. Well, this is the only podcast that we technically do weekly anymore. There was a whole shtick that I had originally. You kind of messed it up with the scheduling. I'm sorry. I'm still trying to deal with it.
You got a new shtick. That's all. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
That's all, folks. Another one in the books.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Insightful podcasts by informative hosts. Insights into Things, a podcast network. Welcome to Insights into Teens, a podcast series exploring the issues and challenges of today's youth. Your hosts are Joseph and Madison Whalen, a father and daughter team making their way through the challenges of the teenage years.
Welcome to Insights into Teens. This is episode 186, Boundaries Matter. I'm your host, Joseph Whalen, and my confident and resilient co-host, Madison Whalen.
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing today, Maddie?
I'm doing all right.
Okay. I know it's been quite some time since we've been on the air for fresh podcasts.
Yep.
I think our last podcast was, early December?
About, yeah.
We had planned on taking the time around the holidays off, which we did, and we were going to start back up after the holidays. Then I came down with a cold, and you came down with a cold, and this and that, and everything else. And we had various reasons that kept us out of the studio. But we are back. We are live as of right now, although when people watch the recording, we won't be. We'll be alive, but not live.
Yep.
Any big announcements? One big announcement. We picked up an affiliate podcast on the network. Sam, our host of Insights into Tomorrow, has started up his own gaming podcast, No Credits Rolled. He's up to episode 4 on that. Both episodes will be coming out. Episode 3 and 4 will be coming out on Monday. So that's exciting. Anything else exciting that we've got to catch up on?
I mean, there probably is stuff. It's just I can't really think of anything right now.
See, next time we're off this long, we kind of have to make a list of things.
That's true.
But today we're talking about boundaries matter. Healthy boundaries are crucial for adolescents to cultivate positive relationships and maintain mental well-being. Addressing unhealthy boundaries and potential relational trauma is achievable, leading to the development of authentic connections through healing and supportive relationships. On today's episode of Insights into Teens, we'll discuss where healthy boundaries end and unhealthy ones begin, and how to deal with such circumstances. But before we do that, I want to take a moment to invite our listening and viewing audience to subscribe to the podcast. You can find audio versions of this podcast listed as Insights into Teens, and you can find audio and video versions of all the network's podcasts listed as Insights into Things. And we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, etc. Pretty much anywhere you can get a podcast these days. I would also invite you to write in, give us your feedback, tell us how we're doing, give us suggestions on what you'd like us to talk about. You can email us at comments@insightsintothings.com. We are on Twitter or X at insights_things, or you can find all of our links and all of our episodes on our primary website at www.insightsintothings.com. Are we ready?
Sure.
Here we go. So the purpose of boundaries. Navigating the complex landscape of relationships and maintaining our mental well-being can feel like a real challenge, especially during our teenage years. That's where the concept of healthy boundaries steps in, becoming a fundamental aspect of our lives that shapes the way we connect with others and safeguard our emotional and psychological health.
Imagine healthy boundaries as the invisible threads that weave our connections together. They're more than just limits, they're the bedrock upon which positive relationships are built, ensuring that our emotional and mental landscapes remain intact. These boundaries are like the signposts that help us define what's acceptable and what's not, all while nurturing our sense of self-respect and individuality. They are the secret ingredient that turns ordinary interactions into genuine and enriching relationships.
Our journey towards understanding boundaries often begins with our caregivers, our parents, or primary role models. They teach us, both through their words and actions, about the unspoken rules of engagement in the world. But sometimes, when boundaries seem blurred or even dysfunctional, it might be a sign that the family dynamic has encountered disruptions, possibly linked to what we call relational trauma. Unpacking and addressing these issues becomes a vital step in forming healthy boundaries.
What's truly remarkable is that we have the power to rewrite our boundary narrative, even if our early lessons were unclear. Adolescents are incredibly resilient beings, capable of learning the art of authentic connections despite past setbacks. Rebuilding relationships with our parents is a crucial starting point. This mending process equips us with the foundation we need to establish secure and healthy boundaries. Building strong connections with mentors, friends, and role models like teachers, counselors, and therapists further enhances our understanding of boundaries and real, heartfelt interaction.
Boundaries are like shields that protect our emotional and mental sanctuaries from external intrusions, all while ensuring we don't inadvertently hurt others. There are three major types of boundaries, including physical boundaries. These are the invisible bubbles that define our personal space. They determine who can enter our personal zone and under what circumstances, shielding us from unwanted physical contact and giving us the comfort we need.
There's also emotional boundaries. Think of these as your emotional guardians. They keep out negative emotional energies from others, preventing manipulation and ensuring that no one exploits our feelings.
We also have mental boundaries. These are the guardians of our thoughts. They fend off hurtful words, ideas, and judgments, preserving our sense of self-worth and mental well-being.
And what are the rewards of these healthy boundaries? Well, they're enormous. A solid boundary system empowers us to take control of our emotional, mental, and even physical health. By setting boundaries, we're sending out a strong signal that our well-being matters, and we demand respect and protection. These boundaries pave the way for mutual respect and understanding in our relationships, creating an environment where genuine connections can thrive and flourish.
Healthy boundaries aren't just limits, they're the very fabric that holds our emotional balance and our capacity to form real, meaningful relationships. Whether we're learning from our caregivers, working through past relational struggles, or grasping the layers of different boundary types, it's all part of the journey towards building healthier connections and enhancing our overall mental well-being. One of the things that I've noticed as you've grown up is the boundaries change and they evolve. And I would even venture to say that there are more boundaries that go up for privacy's sake. But the one thing that I will say is that while there are a lot of boundaries that go into place for all these protections, those boundaries are dependent on trust and understanding. I trust that you're going to take the freedoms that we give you and use them responsibly, and you're not going to violate that trust. Do you feel as though the boundaries that you have set now are comfortable for you? Do you feel they're overly burdensome? Do you feel they don't go far enough? What are your thoughts on the boundaries that you live with today on a day-to-day basis?
I think for the most part, I feel fine with all the boundaries that I live with when it comes to, I guess, specifically the boundaries that we all set for each other. I feel like they're pretty fine. I definitely think that we have all three boundaries to a certain extent, and I don't feel it could be better. It probably also could be a lot worse, but I feel like for now they're pretty good.
So how would you describe your own set of boundaries and relationships today? Are there specific situations where you find it challenging to maintain these boundaries, and how do you handle them?
I do tend to set my own boundaries with a lot of people, and it can kind of vary for me. I feel like for the most part, everyone kind of understands my boundaries, although sometimes it can be a little, like there's small instances where my boundaries are kind of crossed, but it's never anything like super serious. It's just I need to probably communicate a little better. But other than that, I have like set boundaries for some people and other boundaries for other people. One of the examples is physical touch, in the sense of when it comes to my family, I'm good with hugs, high fives, handshakes. You guys, I'm most comfortable being physically affectionate.
Getting punched in the arm when you twitch,
Or that. But like when it comes to my friends, I've kind of found that with almost anybody else, like I'm fine with hugs, but I don't want people to just hug me immediately with like no warning, or like I can't even really see myself hugging a lot of my friends just like spontaneously. I usually have them ask me or I ask them. It's
right. So the unsolicited mutual type of contact is something that you don't welcome. That doesn't mean you're not opposed to that kind of contact, but it has to be in the right context and it has to be under the right circumstances.
Yeah, and I mean, like with you guys, I still ask if I can hug you, but I do think I'm more comfortable when it comes to hugging, at least in that sense, with you guys than I am with my friends. Like, I picture myself hugging you guys way more than I picture myself hugging any of my friends.
Right. No, I get that. How do you protect your emotional and mental well-being in your interactions with others? What boundaries are instantaneous? What are your default boundaries when you interact with other people that you might not necessarily have a close relationship with?
Well, my default boundaries are I'd like not to be touched by someone I'm not that close to. Like, I can do like high fives, but even then it's like, I don't know. That's definitely one of the boundaries I put up. When it comes to the mental and emotional sort of part of that, I usually kind of just prefer more generic, like, talking points rather than, like, some more deep and heavy talking points relating to, like, say we're talking about school and, like, instead of talking about, like, how stressed I am or, like, all these other, like, mental issues I'm dealing with when it comes to school, we might just talk about, like, oh, yeah, school's not all that fun or whatever, and, like, we just talk about, like, hobbies that we like or whatever.
Right. Now, have you run into situations where people have tried, either deliberately or inadvertently to cross these boundaries of yours, and when that happens, what's your reaction? How do you deal with that?
Well, I do have one friend that crosses my boundaries, but in the sense of trying to help me. But that friend I've known since I was in high school. We kind of bonded over being in the same class together. And they I remember they told me that they deliberately want to push my boundaries so that I can, experience more things, because I kind of shelter myself a lot, and that's what I'm comfortable with, and they want to take me out of that comfort zone and actually experience new things, which I feel like is, a genuinely good thing. It's just I'm not always super comfortable with it. But otherwise, like, I do feel like it's something good, and, it's great that they're trying to help me with that, and they've gotten me to, do some stuff and get out of my comfort zone a little more, but, that's kind of the best example I can come up with.
Well, and I think that's a really good example, because I think there's something worthwhile in pushing those boundaries and pushing it. That's how we evolve as people, right? That's how you experience new things. If you're going to hunker down and I don't want to say hide, that kind of sounds detrimental, but like if you want to stay in that comfort zone behind your boundaries, that's fine, but it also limits what you're going to experience in life. Pushing those boundaries oftentimes allows you to experience things you might not normally have that you might enjoy that you wouldn't normally have done. The caution that you have to have there is those boundaries are in place to protect you. You put these boundaries up. You know what your limits are. And if you're pushed beyond those limits, it can make for a very uncomfortable situation. So as long as the person who's trying to expand your boundaries, and I think that's probably a better way to express it, is expand them, not press them or challenge them. The person who's trying to help you expand your boundaries, as long as they do it in a encouraging and non-aggressive way, it gives you that opportunity to push back and say, all right, look, I tried this. It didn't really work out for me. Let's back off a little bit. As long as they don't keep pushing that point and they respect your decision, then it's a safe relationship, I think.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the types of dysfunctional boundaries. We'll be right back. For over 7 years, the Second Sith Empire has been the premier community guild in the online game Star Wars: The Old Republic. With hundreds of friendly and helpful active members, a weekly schedule of nightly events, annual guild meet and greets, and an active community both on the web and on Discord. The Second Sith Empire is more than your typical gaming group. We're family. Join us on the Starforge server for nightly events such as operations, flashpoints, world boss hunts, Star Wars trivia, guild lottery, and much more. Visit us on the web today at www.thesecondsithempire.com.
Welcome back to Insights into Teens. Today we're talking about why... I was not prepared for this.
That's okay.
Today we're talking about why boundaries matter. And now we're going to talk about types of dysfunctional boundaries. Dysfunctional boundaries can manifest in distinct patterns, creating challenges in how we relate to others and navigate our emotional landscape. These patterns can be categorized in 2 primary types: being excessively open and vulnerable, or having boundaries that are exclusively impenetrable.
When our boundaries are too open and vulnerable, we become highly receptive to the influence of others' words and actions, impacting us profoundly on emotional, mental, and even physical levels. This heightened sensitivity can leave us feeling defenseless and incapable of safeguarding ourselves from external forces. In such circumstances, we might even convince ourselves that it's someone else's responsibility to shield us from harm. Paradoxically, despite seeking closeness and connection with others as a means of protection, we struggle to feel genuinely secure. The innate desire for safety clashes with the inherent risk of vulnerability, creating an ongoing tension that prevents us from achieving the sense of safety we seek. Conversely, when our boundaries become excessively impenetrable, we encounter a different set of challenges.
One challenge that we can face through this is disconnection from the world. The strong barriers we erect can lead us to feel disconnected from the world around us. Our reluctance to engage with authenticity and vulnerability closes us off from meaningful interactions, preventing us from truly experiencing life's riches.
Struggle to form genuine connections is another risk. Impenetrable boundaries can hinder our ability to form authentic connections with others. By keeping people at a distance, we unintentionally deprive ourselves of the potential for deep and meaningful relationships.
Difficulty in understanding others is another risk. The rigid walls we build around ourselves create difficulties in understanding and empathizing with others. We find it challenging to accept and grasp their emotions, thoughts, and behaviors, resulting in a lack of connection and empathy.
And the final risk is blocking meaningful connections. While these boundaries are meant to protect us from potential harm, they also block the entry of positive experiences and connections. The fear of being hurt leads us to shut out not only negative influences, but also the potential for joy, growth, and authentic relationships.
The spectrum of dysfunctional boundaries highlights the delicate balance between openness and protection that we all strive to achieve. Whether overly open or impenetrable, these patterns can hinder our ability to foster healthy relationships and navigate the complexities of human connection. Recognizing these patterns and finding ways to strike a harmonious balance is crucial for cultivating meaningful and fulfilling interactions while safeguarding our emotional well-being.
So, have you ever felt that your boundaries were too open, allowing others' words or actions to deeply affect you?
Probably. I do know that, especially when I was younger, specifically in 6th grade. Yes, I'm bringing that up yet again.
That was a rough time for you, man.
Yeah. I ended up having a lot of fights with a close friend of mine, and we, said stuff to each other that, we never actually meant, but it always hurt when it happened, and I kind of feel like I did kind of let whatever they said to me get to me a little too much, and, whenever anyone said anything to me, I, took it to heart. So, yeah, especially before I learned how to control some of my emotions, I was a little more open with my boundaries, and other people's words did hurt me.
So, can you think of a time when you might have put up strong barriers to protect yourself, but it resulted in feeling disconnected or isolated, where those barriers kind of backfired on you?
Probably that was almost the immediate after effect of having too open boundaries. I was kind of like, okay, I kind of need to change all this. So instead of lashing out at people or trying to have let other people's words get to me, I kind of shut off, and I didn't really show anyone how I truly felt, and I kind of shut myself off. I wasn't really that social with anybody, and I was kind of just, okay, I'm just going to be stuck with the few friends that I have right now, and, I'm not going to, expand from that. I also think the pandemic also had a major effect on that at that point, because I was not the most social person at the time, and then the pandemic hit and I became even less social.
So, when that happened, how did you realize that your boundaries were too rigid?
I kind of figured that out when it came to, I guess, just how much I was not willing to be near people. I did not want to. I never would have said that I had social anxiety when I was younger, but now I think I do, because of just how rigid my boundaries were. Because I can't even talk to a cashier normally without being anxious about what I'm gonna say or what they're gonna think of me. It's kind of like a culmination of both of them, where it's like my boundaries are so rigid that I do not like talking to people and I become anxious, but then my boundaries were so open at one point to the point where, but then I also didn't have many close relationships to where I wouldn't have to be like, oh, well, I don't know what they're going to think of me.
Interesting. So, how do you find balance? Do you find balance between being open to meaningful connections and protecting yourself from potential harm? Are you at a balance point now, or is it tilted one way or the other?
I'd say that while it's certainly not good, it's definitely a lot more balanced than it used to be. I have friends and people that I rely on when it comes to needing to be mentally and emotionally vulnerable to people, and, that kind of helps me get through some of the issues that I have. In other instances, I've also kind of shut out people or not really engaged with people who I don't really think would help me in those situations. While it could definitely be a lot better than it is now, because I'm still kind of struggling with it, I definitely think it's a lot better. I have kind of a system with it now, so it's at least a little better than it was.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, that's with people outside the immediate family there. How do you find your balance with family members now? I know we don't see a lot of the extended family as frequently as we used to. And one of the things, the proverbial, hugs from the rest of the family, or the infamous pinching of the cheeks and all that stuff. Do you find when you have those limited interactions with the extended family that your boundaries are at a comfortable level, or do you think you need to make adjustments?
There's some adjustments I need to make with some of my family members, but otherwise, a lot of them are really, I don't really know what the best word is, but a good portion of them understand the idea of consent, and I've made it clear to them specifically my boundaries when it comes to physical touch, and now they always ask, like, if I actually want a hug, and, they always make sure to ask before going in for a hug. I still have some family members that I haven't directly told that with, and they, just kind of hug me without asking, which, it kind of gets me a little uncomfortable, but, it's something I can probably work on.
Now, do you feel, for the most part, that you're setting your boundaries and those boundaries aren't being set for you? Or do you feel that it's more an outside influence setting those boundaries?
I think it can be kind of mixed between that. I certainly have my own boundaries when it comes to a lot of things when it comes to my interactions with other people. But when it comes to other people setting boundaries with me, I always make sure to respect them. And there's there's certain instances where I provide that vulnerability for my friend, or we kind of just joke around often enough, and we're kind of just an escape from reality with each other. I feel like, they all have their own boundaries with me, and if I ever accidentally cross their boundaries, they'll let me know.
Okay. So the notion of boundaries expands into the concept of containment, which involves safeguarding others from our physical, emotional, and verbal behaviors. This dual aspect of containment, its absence and its excess, both serve as indicators of dysfunctional boundaries that have far-reaching implications in our interactions.
The lack of containment can be traced back to two primary sources. Firstly, growing up with a parent who displayed uncontained behavior can influence a child to mimic similar actions. Additionally, when caregivers fail to address dysfunctional behavior in a child, it can contribute to a lack of containment. The behaviors associated with a lack of containment encompass encroaching on personal space by standing too close to others, invading boundaries by touching people or their belongings without seeking permission, engaging in unfiltered speech that may lead to hurtful remarks, reacting impulsively without considering the potential consequences, struggling to manage emotions or energy resulting in emotional outburst, and evading personal responsibility by placing blame on others for one's actions.
Dysfunctional boundaries can also manifest as an excessive sense of containment, effectively constructing emotional walls. This pattern gives rise to distinct behaviors such as rarely initiating physical contact with others due to apprehension or discomfort, suppressing personal desires and needs due to the anticipation that they won't be fulfilled, intensely focusing on avoiding any actions that might upset or offend others, often at the expense of one's own authenticity, and striving for perfectionism as a defense mechanism against the deep-seated fear of abandonment.
The interconnectedness between boundaries and containment is of great significance. Dysfunctional boundaries can manifest as either a lack of containment involving behaviors that disregard personal boundaries, or excessive containment, which results in emotional detachment and avoidance of authentic self-expression. Recognizing these patterns and delving into their underlying causes is pivotal in the journey to foster healthier, more balanced, and meaningful interpersonal interactions.
So, have you ever experienced or witnessed situations where someone's behavior felt uncontained, like invading personal space or reacting impulsively?
I actually have two examples of friends, one that was a while ago and one that's actually more current, where I do feel like their boundaries, they were kind of uncontained. I had one friend who, like, it was the friend that I also kind of fought with when I was younger. I don't really know if they understood the concept of boundaries, but they certainly had instances where they clearly broke boundaries. They were way more comfortable in certain things, and they thought that doing certain things was fine when it really wasn't. And then I have a friend currently now that is in my gym class, and I have like a group of friends there, and they all started to have issues with this friend because they would like touch them like spontaneously, and one of them is very insistent on the idea of consent when it comes to being touched, and there was like conflict between them, and they ended up, I think, fighting over it, or like they had friends that fought over it because of it. And I'm still friends with that person, but I have noticed that like they do tend to, touch their friends without really asking, and I don't really think it's necessarily their fault, but it certainly is something to consider.
Interesting. Now, on the other side of the coin, can you identify times when you or someone you may know may have shown signs of excessive containment, like avoiding physical contact or suppressing personal needs, but from a detrimental standpoint to that person?
That probably more so encompasses me. The minute you were reading off like all the effects of that, I'm like, wow, I feel called out. And I'm pretty sure some of it probably is a bit detrimental to me because I am a perfectionist and I don't want to feel like I'm failing anyone. And I usually avoid confrontation with people because I don't want to be yelled at and I don't want other people to be annoyed by my presence. So I kind of avoid a lot of the confrontations, and maybe if I had actually gone and, talked through stuff, or I actually had done things that I avoided, maybe things would have turned out better for me. And like, even without considering the possibility of what could have happened if I did take that step, or the steps, I do feel like it's still kind of detrimental to me because, at least in the sense of self-worth, because I am a perfectionist and I don't want to be abandoned or be not I don't want my friends to see me in a negative light because I'm not perfect. And even though I understand that, nobody's perfect and like perfection is something that I just can't achieve, I still constantly try to do so, and and it also makes me actively avoid certain things because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know how I'm going to do this perfectly. I don't want to screw up.
Yeah, I could see how that would be a real source of anxiety for you at that point. So do you think you can find a balance between respecting others' boundaries and not overly containing yourself?
I mean, probably. The big step would probably be getting rid of my social anxiety. Finding ways of dealing with my anxiety, I feel like, is probably the best sense in what I need to do. That would at least help me, because I'm not an overly uncontained person. I'm an overly contained person. And a lot of the containment usually comes from some sort of anxiety or the perfectionism that I have. And maybe if I ended up working on that, or trying to find the source of that, or just generally doing things to help fix my anxiety, or at least downplay it to the point where it isn't detrimental to me, maybe then I would be able to find a better balance.
Okay. Well, I think there's a solution out there somewhere. We're going to take a second break here, and when we come back, we're actually going to talk about healing dysfunctional boundaries. We'll be right back.
Insights into Entertainment, a podcast series taking a deeper look into entertainment and media. Our husband and wife team of pop culture fanatics are exploring all things from music and movies to television and fandom. We'll look at the interesting and obscure entertainment news of the week. We'll talk about theme park and pop culture news. We'll give you the latest and greatest on pop culture conventions. We'll give you a deep dive into Disney, Star Wars, and much more. Check out our video episodes at youtube.com/insightsintothings. Our audio episodes at podcast.insightsintoentertainment.com, or check us out on the web at insightsintothings.com.
Welcome back to Insights into Teens. Today we're talking about boundaries and why they matter. And now we're going to talk about healing dysfunctional boundaries. Therapists are equipped with a diverse array of methods to guide adolescents and families through the journey of healing dysfunctional boundaries. This process commences with the essential step of identifying the unhealthy patterns and behaviors that have taken root. Questions will tend to emerge. Are we too vulnerable or too closed off? Are we transgressing boundaries or maintaining an excessive distance?
For those who have encountered relational trauma, specialized therapists play a pivotal role in helping clients pinpoint triggers that lead to unhealthy behavior stemming from these dysfunctional boundaries. The key focus is on clients striving to enhance containment. This involves honing skills in emotional regulation, allowing individuals to tap into self-soothing mechanisms, and reducing reliance on nervous verbalizing or overdependence on external sources for comfort.
Several therapeutic modalities are harnessed to treat dysfunctional boundaries and relational trauma. So, first up, we have...
Good luck with that one. Dialectical
behavioral therapy, or DBT. DBT offers a structured approach that aids individuals in acknowledging and managing the unhealthy behaviors that often mask underlying issues. Collaboratively with therapists, clients craft strategies to modify these patterns, fostering positive changes.
You also have cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. With CBT, individuals embark on the journey of recognizing and reshaping negative thought and behavioral patterns. This shift gradually cultivates a more optimistic mindset and constructive actions.
There's also mindfulness. The adoption of mindfulness practices such as yoga and meditation nurtures heightened self-awareness. This, in turn, acts as an emotional shield, imbuing tranquility and fostering sensitivity to respecting the boundaries of others.
There's also somatic therapies. Delving into somatic therapies underscores the interconnectedness of the body and mind. These therapies prove particularly beneficial for those on a journey of trauma recovery, addressing emotional and physical aspects.
And finally, there's experimental therapies. Creative modalities like art therapy, music therapy, adventure therapy, and...
So that's experiential therapies, not experimental therapies. Experiential. Okay. Just to clarify.
Yeah.
For those at home.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Creative modalities like art therapy, music therapy, adventure therapy, and...
Equine therapy. You know what that is?
No.
Horses.
Oh.
Grooming them, riding them, taking care of them.
Anyway, they all offer alternative avenues for self-expression. Beyond this, they bolster self-esteem and create platforms for communication when verbal articulation might pose challenges, like right now.
The spectrum of strategies employed by therapists reflects their commitment to aiding teenagers and families in the journey towards healing dysfunctional boundaries. The emphasis spans from recognizing the unhealthy behaviors and their triggers to engaging in the proper therapies suited for the unique situation and patient. These multifaceted approaches combine forces to steer individuals through the labyrinth of relational trauma, nurturing healthier patterns of interaction and expression. Now, one of those we've talked about numerous times, mindfulness, on the podcast itself, which I know we've tried some of that stuff. And some of these things, while not done under the guise of a professional therapist, some of these things we've kind of tried ourselves. I mean, your version of equine therapy is really feline therapy for you. One of your emotional support animals that we have around the house, we got a bunch of them are cats. How do you kind of tap into these things, these different therapies that might not register immediately as a therapy, to try to bring that balance of these boundaries to you?
Well, usually they kind of like with everything, they kind of allow me to kind of step back and, focus on something that I am comfortable with. If someone ended up crossing my boundary, or if something happened with that made me uncomfortable, I can take some time, step back, do something I enjoy, spend some time with cats, and just chill, pretty much.
Just chill. Yeah. I mean, that's probably the ultimate therapy out there, is just getting yourself to that comfort state. So when thinking about your own boundaries and relationships, can you identify any patterns that might be considered unhealthy, like being too open or too closed off?
I think I've mentioned it before that I do think I'm a little too closed off when it comes to things, and I guess that's also why I have a friend that wants to expand my boundaries, because I limit myself a lot, and I understand that I limit myself. You guys have also mentioned how I limit myself in the sense of, while I'm able to go out and drive and I have that freedom, I don't. I've only done it once, and I kind of don't want to do it ever again.
What are your thoughts on using creative or experiential therapies like art therapy or equine or feline to address relational issues and boundaries and problems?
Again, I feel like they can kind of be a way to step out of that reality and into another reality that is either something you can do creatively or something that just makes you feel good. I feel like you normally use that sort of stuff as a way to step back from issues that stress me out or things that don't make me comfortable, as a way to find a sense of comfort and to, like I said, chill. And I feel like a lot of people could benefit from having something that can help them calm down if they've had a stressful day, or if someone said something to them that they didn't like, or if just any really bad thing happened. That, I hope everyone has at least something that they can go to that makes them feel calm, or at least makes them feel good.
So aside from the obvious observation that you might be overly contained sometimes, do you think the boundaries that you live by on a day-to-day basis are adequate for you, or do you think you need to evaluate maybe making some adjustments to them?
I mean, I probably need to make adjustments to the fact that I don't really like talking to strangers, and my boundary is kind of like, if you want to talk to me, you come up to me and do so. And because obviously there's going to be instances where I'm going to have to go up and talk to somebody else, like at a register. I can't wait for them to, come up and say, "Are you finished with all your items? Would you like me to help you with that?" And it's like, I can't expect that, because that's not how that works. You kind of have to be the one to initiate that. And I feel like my boundary of waiting for other people to initiate stuff is something that not only can I benefit from in the sense of the practical reason, but also the fact that I'll be able to initiate conversations with other people and hopefully form meaningful relationships that way, rather than just waiting for them to come and talk to me instead of me going to talk to them.
Well, it sounds like the boundaries that you have right now serve you well for the most part. And it sounds like where they don't serve you, you're aware of those shortcomings. It's just a matter of addressing those. So I think that's really the important thing is you're doing a pretty good job coping with things the way they are with the current boundaries, but you recognize where there's room for some growth. And thankfully that growth is being encouraged by some of your friends too in a, would you say, healthy way?
Yeah, because, like, none of my friends are doing it in any sort of malicious way. They joke about it, but, like, my friends genuinely want me to, like, go out, do some clubs, do some stuff with the school, or, you know, they'll ask me, hey, you want to hang out? Because they know I'm usually never one to do
Right.
so.
Well, that's good. It's good that they're encouraging you instead of pressuring you. I think that itself is indicative of, one, good friends, two, boundaries that can be expanded without too much pain. So I think that's a good thing. But I think that was all we had for the topic and the show today. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and we'll get your closing thoughts and remarks. We'll be right back.
All right, so to everyone out there, I'm just going to restate the title of the podcast. Boundaries matter. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people could, you know, learn to understand. And much like with everything in life, there's obviously a middle ground from going too far off one end and too far off the other end. If you're too overly open or overly uncontained, you can start to make other people feel uncomfortable, or you yourself are a little too vulnerable when it comes to everything and you're not able to, you know, feel secure with yourself or around others. Meanwhile, if you're like me and you're too closed off and unwilling to break your own boundaries for the sake of talking with other people, that's also kind of an issue as well, because you could also be harming yourself. So finding a way of balance between the two of them, I feel like, is something important. And obviously, it's probably not going to be super easy, considering I'm still struggling with it myself. So, you know, keep going at it. You're doing great.
Nice. And I think it's sage advice, because boundaries change. They're situational. They're different from person to person, from situation to situation. And sometimes there's that awkwardness of trying to figure out those boundaries and where their comfort level is until you can kind of get them dialed in. Nothing is just going to come automatically like that. You kind of you have to feel it out. And having other people in your life that help you and are interested in your best interest and are helping you to expand those and deal with those boundaries, I think that's a blessing in life. So that was all we had today. Before we do go, I want to once again invite our listening and viewing audience to subscribe to the podcast. Audio versions of this podcast can be found listed as Insights into Teens, and audio and video versions of all the network's podcasts, including our new affiliate podcast, No Credits Rolled, can be found at Insights into Things. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, etc., etc. And you can find links to all this and more on our website at www.insightsintothings.com. One final word, we've gotten a number of folks reaching out to us about appearing on the podcast. We are working through those requests now to try to schedule interviews.
Insightful podcasts by informative hosts. Insights into